Good afternoon and welcome to this meeting of the Charlotte County Board of County Commissioners and the City of Northport Commissioners for July 14th, 2022. Let's go ahead and do a roll call. Clerk, do you want to do that? Sure.
Vice Chair Constance.
Here.
Commissioner Deutsch.
Present.
Commissioner Doherty.
Here.
Commissioner Teseo.
Here.
Commissioner Truex.
Speak up, Bill.
He's on the screen, but I don't know
I
if...
think he's muted.
Yeah.
He is muted. I'm in contact with him now. He is here. We're working on the issue.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
So he's here. We'll get him audible in a little bit.
And then we have Mayor Pete Emmerich. He's absent? Okay. We have Vice Mayor Langdon.
Oh, I heard rule.
Say here.
Present.
Alice White.
Here.
Debbie McDowell. Here. And Jill Luke.
Present.
All right, very good. If you'll all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, I really appreciate our colleagues from Northport coming to meet with us, and I appreciate Commissioner Truex, who is out of state at this time, also participating. So we'll move on to our first item, which is public input on agenda items only, and I'll start with Lynn Sabo, followed by Tim Ritchie, and then Richard Russell.
Good afternoon. I'm Lynn Sabo, Buena Vista Property Association, which is in Port Charlotte. We are crabbers, and I spoke to the Charlotte County Commissioners 2 days ago and wanted to address all of you to explain that where we crab, I found out from the wonderful Brandon Moody that you're going to hear from later today, that we are crabbing in a place that has water that comes in, actually originating in Northport. So you're going to see that, and there are issues because where we crab, the water is dying. In fact, I think it's mostly dead. Our crab intake for 10 little pots is down to almost nothing, and all the commercial crabbers in the harbor are gone. They've all left and gone to other waters. So there are a lot of issues associated with that. I wanted to address a number of items on your agenda today. 2A, with the development, you'll see that Sunseeker is going to be humongous, having a lot of hotels, but I don't see where you've considered infrastructure and roads that kind of accompany this great influx of the development and the Sunseeker Resort and the huge development. Punta Gorda is number one for people moving from different parts of the country here. And if we get this influx of people with the development, you'll need to consider the infrastructure. And our impact fees aren't high enough to be able to do it. So the citizens are paying that through taxes. 2C, water quality. You're going to see 2 graphs from Brandon that are chilling about the nutrient and bacteria impaired water that is terrible in all of the waterways. And the ones that don't look impaired is actually where we crab, and we know it's impaired. They just haven't studied it yet. in 2D, you're going to talk about transportation studies. We moved from Northern Virginia. If you can imagine traffic, that is the worst in the country, the world. And we don't want our place to be like Northern Virginia with all this development coming in. You need transportation studies. Thank you very much, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, we have Tim Ritchie, followed by Richard Russell again. If anybody wishes to speak to this body during this portion of the meeting, please fill out a card, state your name for the record. Remarks will be on the agenda and will be limited to 3 minutes, and they'll be addressed to the commissions as a body and not to individual members. There will be no discussion, but I'm sure whatever is brought forward will be addressed when we look at the items.
Mr. Chair, while we're waiting for the handout, maybe we can introduce Mr. Jerome Fletcher, and I believe we have the attorney for the city of Northport here as well.
Absolutely. Mr. Fletcher, do you want to make a comment?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. I'm Jerome Fletcher, City Manager, City of Northport. Thank you for having us. We do appreciate it. We do know that, the request that we made to meet with you all as a body was very well received. The partnership and teamwork that I can speak of with your county administrator, Mr. Hector Flores, cannot be stated enough as how he has embraced myself, our city, our ideas, our partnership all at once. So it's a pleasure for us to be in front of you to talk about some items that I know will be mutually beneficial. We look forward to the conversation, and we pledge to make sure that we communicate and follow up on the items that are discussed today and follow back with you as your city and county leadership together as partners. And I'll also turn it over to Ms. Margaret Roberts, who is representing our city attorney's office.
Good afternoon.
You got to hit the button. Make it green.
There you go.
Good afternoon. Margaret Roberts, Assistant City Attorney. I'm here on behalf of Amber Slayton, our City Attorney. It's always a pleasure to be in a meeting where the governments are collaborating. So thank you for having us.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Well, good afternoon, Commissioners of Charlotte County and City of Northport, and the county attorneys and city attorney and the administrators and everybody in the chamber. I handed you out a map, and it's circled, and this is what is up the Peace River and off of the Myakka River. I also handed you out the article from our paper about the loss of the seagrass. And I was reading through these, and if you are looking at the map, up above the city of Northport, above DeSoto, you'll see I shaded it in pink. This is phosphate mining. And I'd like to thank the city of Northport for leading the charge when you banned phosphate mining in your city. It was a great achievement for everybody in the state of Florida. And then I get to this page here where it says Northport Water Quality Monitoring Programs. Phosphate baseline, quarterly sampling, 4 sites began in 2017, 32 parameters, including nutrients, metals, general chemistry, and radioactive nuclides. And then the next page, it says Canal Creek Water Monitoring Quality. And if we get down to monitoring to meet National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES program requirements. This is the Mosaic Bartow Chemical Plant NPDES permit. That's the one I fought for 2 years. This is the permit renewal and modification that they tried to sneak in on us, but we got our thing filed 2 days before they were issued the permit. Now, every day from this gyp stack in Bartow, we have up to 27 million gallons of what they call non-contact process wastewater being discharged into the Peace River. It's blended acidic radioactive wastewater. The rivers are severely sick. And it's time that we're all here together, that this NPDES permit renewal and modification process needs to be sincerely overhauled. We need all of your help contacting our senators and our congressmen and women, and this needs to become priority number one. Thank you kindly, everybody.
Thank you, sir. And next up, we have Mr. Richard Russell, and I don't have any other cards, so anybody else wishing to speak, please fill out a card, and that'll get over to me. Thank you.
I want to welcome the commissioners from Northport, and again, our Charlotte County commissioners. I'm Richard Russell. I'm from Port Charlotte, Florida. I think it's great that Northport and Charlotte County got together and put out a message to Mosaic that we don't want you, stay away. But that's not going to stop them. They are having workshops, as probably you know, on July 27th, and they'll have another one in October if they continue to march. And it would be great if we get the message out to our community in Charlotte County to please go up to the meetings in DeSoto County. It starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's only like 25, 30 miles up the road, so it's not a long trip. But we need to get the support. Tim Ritchie has done a yeoman's job in 4+ years, making everybody aware of what's going on and creating an attitude and an interest and telling it like it is. So I want to commend Tim. We've got a new member of the group, Lynn Sobo, and I think she's going to be a great asset because she is out on the water virtually every day doing kayaking and crabbing, and she's seen in 6 years that she's lived here the impact from somewhere on our Charlotte Harbor and our rivers, and it doesn't happen in a vacuum. And to Tim's comments, the millions of gallons of stuff that comes down the Peace River, and some of it probably coming down the Myakka, is ending up in Charlotte Harbor, and it's not flowing out, it's not leaving, it's staying there. And if you drive over the bridge, 41 Bridge, and look down on a windy day, you see these streams of white foam. That's not good stuff. And to the point is, our waters are impaired, and it may get worse, and they certainly risk. As at the last workshop that I went to, one of the Mosaic folks stood up and said that they are building their clay settling area to withstand 127-mile-an-hour winds. And I got up and said, well, are you aware of what Charlie did? 150 miles an hour with 170+ mile gusts? Are you going to guarantee us there's not going to be another Charlie come through? What are you going to do with the 127-mile criteria for your clay settling area? What's it going to do? I mean, that's just one thing, but they have a lot of other issues, and we need to be aware of it, and we need to get people to show up and be counted. So DeSoto County commissioners vote no when it comes back in for rezoning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Anybody else wishing to speak? All right. We're going to just move ahead through the agenda. Mr. Flores, did you have anything that you wanted to say as far as an opening statement before we start with our presentations?
Oh, just, again, just like everybody said, welcome to Charlotte County. I will add, I did look back to, I shared with Vice Mayor when we first started to communicate. It was literally August 22nd, 2021. So I think within a couple days after your commission appointed Jerome, he reached out and said, I'm coming in town, let's get together. So we've been building that relationship since then. I appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate the fact that everybody's been able to fit this on their schedule and we could get together because we may be from different you're from a different county, but we really match up right on the border, and there's so many things where both of these municipalities have grown together. So, Commissioner Truex, is that you? Was it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm coming in, but you sound a little bit like a robot, Chris.
That's all that iron I'm taking. We'll try to work on the acoustics for you, Commissioner. But we do see that you're on the team's app. So we're, if you can hear and just, I'll try to see if you raise your hand. But you can just sort of say something so we know you'd like to speak, and we'll recognize you.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for participating. We appreciate that. Okay. With that, if nobody has any other opening comments, we'll just roll right into it. We have Mr. Dave Gammon, our Economic Development Director, and he's going to lead off with our presentation on economic development.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. Nice to see all you commissioners and the Northport commissioners. This is great. Thank you for the opportunity to let Economic Development introduce this conference. We're very excited about it. And with city manager's help, we'll bop through a couple of slides, tell you what's happening in the economic development world, both here and across our border in Northport, see some of the things that are going on. So again, thanks for the opportunity. It's not a real hard job of economic opportunity considering what we get to sell, right? We have all the Chamber of Commerce points. We have unbelievable climate. We've got great quality of life. We've got natural assets in the harbor and the rivers. We have low crime, relatively low traffic compared to other places. Some people might argue that occasionally, but really, compared to others, we've really got some very nice Chamber of Commerce points. But I think one of the main things that helps us bring businesses into the community and into Southwest Florida is the governor's open for business. That's a big deal. We are getting a lot of businesses coming from states that aren't allowed to participate. They're not allowed to thrive, and they can do that here in Southwest Florida, so it's helping us tremendously. But it is producing growth. You guys see it in Northport. We see it here, obviously. So there's a lot of studies done that talk a little bit about growth. U-Haul's one of them. They study where people move from, where they move to, right? So this is the states that people are leaving as fast as they can, according to U-Haul. California, Illinois, New Jersey. This isn't a surprise, I don't think, to anyone. I think maybe the only surprise on here is the state of Washington. It used to be the 5th most popular destination. People wanted to go to Washington, but I think their politics have turned that around. Now people are leaving there. We didn't even used to get people from California and Oregon coming to Southwest Florida. Now they're coming. It's a different model. We used to advertise in all of these states and say, hey, come down here, people. This is a place you need to be. This is where they're moving to. Tennessee's number 1, Texas is number 2, the state of Florida's number 3. And everybody but Jerome can guess on this one because he's seen my presentations before. But can somebody guess the number 1 location for U-Haul drop-offs in the entire country?
Northport.
5 of you, or at least 4 of you, should have got this. This is the city of Northport. You are the number 1 location for U-Haul drop-off locations. And don't be embarrassed. Jerome didn't get it either. Sorry to call you out, Jerome.
Right.
Realtor.com does studies also.
Wait, are you saying if you need an empty U-Haul truck, go to Northport?
That's exactly where you go, and it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting point. We had Joshua in our office look into it. How do you get these trucks back to California and stuff like that? How do you do it? It's all a mathematical model. So it's very inexpensive to rent a U-Haul here going back to California, about 4 times more expensive to California here. And it works. I took one to Arizona. It wasn't very much money. Realtor.com did the same kind of study. They looked at what communities people looked at of where they might want to move to. Okay, so it's not that you would look at Northport and Google Northport. It'd be if you're somewhere else, and where would you look to go? So now we get to weigh in on that. The number 1 location that people Google throughout the country is Punta Gorda. They're looking at a lot of college students where they want to live and work. That's how come we get up there nice and high. So it's really interesting. Punta Gorda is number 1. Also, Punta Gorda rated very well with a group called Boyd Company. They said, hey, where's the best place to open a corporate headquarters in the eastern U.S.? Punta Gorda got rated number 1. So all of those things help us bring the activity here. It's part of the growth that we're seeing. We're all seeing it. You're seeing it. We're seeing it. This is from our Community Development Department. This is the number of single-family detached permits that we've pulled since the year 2000. Okay, you can see there was a big run up after Charlie, and then during the Great Recession, everything was way down low, and it's building back up again. We are averaging about 340 single-family detached permits a month now. If we keep that going through the end of the year, we'll be over 4,000, a new fiscal record for us. We had 454 permits, I think, Sean, something like that, in March or April of this year. If you look at 2008 or 9 or 10 or 11, we didn't have that many permits in the entire year. So that's the kind of growth we're trying to handle here in Charlotte County, Southwest Florida. Big deal. This is where those single-family detached permits at least are in Charlotte County. You can see it spread throughout the county. We've got a lot in West County, a lot happening around this area, the Central Core, and this doesn't even include Babcock. Yes, sir.
Dave, are you including City of Punta Gorda, or that's
No.
those? Right. So that's why that area of the map is kind of sparse.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Different groups, yep. So just zooming in on West County, sorry, Commissioner Truex, you can't see this, but this is a lot of happening out in South Gulf Cove and Rotunda. And then we've got a lot happening around this area, the Big X, a lot of single-family detached activity going on. I thought this was a really interesting slide since we're doing this with the City of Northport. This is where there are 1,300 or so county employees live. Every dot represents one of our county employees. City of Northport is very important to us. As you can see, one of the people in my office is from Northport. We have to have her, so it's really great. I think we get together and do these meetings because Northport is vital to what we're doing. Okay, here's our charm versus growth. We have this growth happening. I am tasked with my 5 bosses, one in particular, how to keep this charm in our community and accept this growth, right? It's very tough to stop the growth. It's like holding back the tide. I don't know how we can do it, but we're trying. But we have some different ways of growing, so let's look at some of those. Growth to Florida is nothing new, especially in this part of Florida. We all were formed by lot developers, right? General Development started in Port Charlotte, Northport, Lehigh Acres. They did all of these platted lots, right? $10 down, $10 a month. We all know this story. You send this little coupon in. They sold it all over the world. The issue is, from economic development perspective, it's very tough for us to assemble lots to bring in a new type of development. We've got a lot of, this is what our single-family lots look like. We've got a lot of 80 by 125 lots throughout the county, so it's hard to attract new businesses or new ideas in a single-family community, single-family detached lot community. And this is what it looks like 60 years later in a lot of Northport and a lot of Charlotte County. We have a house, and then we have 6 or 7 or 8 lots filled with trees. That's what we get after 60 years. Not all of it, but a lot of it. This is one of my favorite maps. This is all of the single-family detached lots in Charlotte County. We have over 200,000 80 by 125 lots in Charlotte County. And don't do that on City of Northport. You're on here too. You have 70,000 lots, single-family detached lots. So let's go back to Charlotte County for a second. Those red ones are the ones that have houses on them. About 100,000 single-family detached homes. Those yellow ones are lots. So we could stop the growth. We said we don't want any more growth here. Those people that bought those lots can build a house there. That means they're adding to our traffic because there's nothing for them to do. They can't even walk their dogs. There's no sidewalks. There's no utilities. Sorry, Brandon. But if you did this on septic systems, we would need a new water quality manager because he would leave. So that's Charlotte County. Northport's not that much different. As I said, you got about 70,000 lots. Again, the red or the orange are your single-family detached homes already there. Your yellow are the lots that are available also. So again, we continue to grow that way. I think there's better ways, and I think this commissioner, I think this whole board think there's probably better ways. So let's talk about some of those and some things that are happening in Charlotte County and Northport if we could. Somebody give me the number of squares on that real quick because I want to talk about economic development. It's 16 squares. Everybody agree with that?
70.
I agree with you, Jill. Keep going.
Right.
You're absolutely right. There are 30 squares there, and I believe this is economic development in a nutshell. This is what we do. We point out different squares and different things that are happening in our community, and that's what we're here today to do, to talk a little bit about not just what is. You might look at that and say, okay, it's 16 squares, but what could be? And it's actually 30 squares up there. And that's a nutshell, and actually my review comes up, Hector, in a couple of months, and I was just going to put this on for you all, if that's okay.
So the question should have been, how many possible squares are there?
Well, I've got 16. Do you have more? I've got 30.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I found the 30, but
Yeah.
it's how many possible?
You got more?
No.
Okay, yeah, 30. Yeah, it's 30 squares on there, yeah. Economic development in a nutshell. This is another really interesting slide. You guys saw the slide before that showed all the single-family detached lots with no opportunity for expansion. 20 years ago, the county commissioners of Charlotte County came up with an idea. We need to acquire some property in the middle of the community that we can have a development that might be more appropriate for today's standards. So they ended up buying about 3,000 lots and homes. We call it Murdoch Village, about 870 acres, just not too far from Northport, obviously. That's 41 up on the top of the slide and 776 on the bottom. This is what's going on in Murdoch Village since then. We have sold the left-hand side of your screen, 450 acres, to a group called Coulter Land Development. They're doing a master plan community, which we didn't have before, so it's a different type of living. Obviously, they can live, walk in their community, walk their dogs. It's around a central park. We have Centennial Park. It's been so successful, it's called Westport, that we've put under contract the middle 160 acres with them to continue Westport. It'll have a little commercial center so they can actually shop and live in this community without getting onto the roads. And the other thing it does is it connects 41 to 776, opening up that corridor a little bit. Just to see how fast things are growing, this picture is in 2019. You're hovering over 41, looking south towards 776. You see it at the top of the slide, and our Charlotte Sports Park, that's 2019. This is not even today. This is a couple of months ago. We have D.R. Horton, we have Lennar, we have M.I. Homes, we've got Miranda, all kinds of national builders in here building single-family homes in a walkable community. You can see our Centennial Park in the middle of that. You can see our rec center over on the left. We've got apartment buildings being built on the front of it, or the lower side, so a very big development that's happening. We're really, really excited about it. Jerome, if you would jump in.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Gammon. I appreciate it. And this is the second time I've seen this presentation, and there's always so much information, and it's a lot. And I'm very proud to say that happy that this is happening in our region. The Legacy Trail Connector is what I'll talk about first, and the Legacy Trail has seen over 600,000 users in the last 12 months. The Northport Connector to Warm Meadow Springs will be completed in the fall of 2022. The connector is just part of the Trust for Public Lands plan to complete the Florida Gulf Trail, which is a 336-mile corridor traversing 7 coastal counties, including Hillsborough, Pinellas, Manatee, Sarasota, Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties. Right now, the Trust for Public Land is in conversations with the state to work towards this exciting project. Preservation and sustainability. Legacy Trail is an addition to Northport's already budding ecotourism scene, which includes Warm Meadow Springs, more than 400 acres of parkland, more than 80 miles of freshwater canals, and both Charlotte County and Northport, as well as other involved jurisdictions, will realize regional benefits from the increased foot traffic. Next slide is Warm Meadow. That's still the Legacy Trail, and that's the connector that we just spoke about earlier as well, and some of its most current progress. When you look at this slide, we talk about Warm Meadow Springs, and Warm Meadow Springs, like the Legacy Trail Connector, contribute to the region's growing focus of ecotourism. We acquired Warm Meadow Springs by the city in September of 2014, and the master plan development is in progress. And our year-to-date attendance is up 16% for the year of fiscal year 22. We've had over 111,000 guests thus far this year with a revenue of $1.4 million. The Warm Meadow Springs commercial visioning is one that we've discussed recently with our commission. We are in the phases right now of entertaining how we can expand it in a way that will allow us to have the most revenue generation as well as to have the best customer experience. Next slide would be.
I think that goes back to me. Thanks.
There you go.
I'll jump you back in. Talking about growth and ways to do growth. This is one example of what can happen with growth if it's planned out the correct way. Back in November of 2020, the Charlotte County Board of Commissioners came up with a mixed-use zoning ordinance that allowed greater density and higher heights if there were developments that were along major arterials and they were bigger chunks of land. This is our Port Charlotte, this is our Promenades Mall. About a 26-acre site down 41 toward Charlotte Harbor from here. Because of that mixed-use zoning ordinance, we attracted a Miami developer that's interested in redoing the Promenades Mall into what he calls Parkside Village, a true walkable community. It's a mixed-use development. This is what I mean by mixed use. If you look at this, the top of it will be 1,100 apartment units. He's looking at 174,000 square feet of office and medical office in the middle, and then walkable retail on the bottom. So the residents here aren't on our streets. This is in our hospital districts between Fawcett and Shore Point. So those nurses and staff at the hospital can live here, walk to work. They can work in their buildings. They can go down and get a cup of coffee or shop or do any dinner things. So it's a different way of growing. We can get a lot of new residents in without being on single-family detached programs. So you can see it's going to be a really nice concept, over $100 million project they're looking at. So take that one more step. Right across the street from us here is the Port Charlotte Town Center. You've all probably been in the Port Charlotte Town Center. It's not the concept that works anymore. People don't go to the old malls anymore. So we have a receivership in charge of that project right now. They're interviewing real estate brokers to use the same mixed-use zoning ordinance for our Port Charlotte Town Center. The promenade you saw was 26 acres. This is 54 acres. So imagine what could be there. That's what's exciting about economic development, what could happen there. Sunseeker. This is really a change for Charlotte County and Southwest Florida, all of it. It's really been funny. We've always been kind of a donut hole. I think Northport's been the same way. People go to Sarasota, they go to Lee County or Collier, but they've always skipped this part of the Southwest Florida. Not the case anymore. They came up and said this makes sense to be here on Charlotte Harbor. This is going to be 785 keys, 510 hotel rooms in a tower, and then they'll have 1, 2, and 3 bedroom suites in additional towers. They'll have a 60,000 square foot convention center. They'll have 19 unique concept restaurants, bars, and cafes on an elevated boardwalk open to the public. This will be a $600 million and counting project right on our border, so we're right in the middle of our community. This is their site plan. Everything I just told you about's less than 50% of the site of the land they own. So there's possibilities they can do a lot more just depending on what happens. I think this is really an interesting slide. On the right-hand side, again, that donut hole I was talking about, it happened with luxury resorts also. There's a whole bunch down in Collier, some in Lee, and up in Sarasota, but there weren't any in this area. They identified that. This is done by Allegiant Travel Company. They know where their people are coming, and they believe they can capture them, bus them over to the site, not do too much to the traffic of our roads because they can capture them all there. The other thing that's interesting on this slide on the left-hand side is the age of all those luxury resorts. 30 or 40 years old, a lot different. So they're a data company. They know what they're doing. We're real excited to have that going. Should be open April next year. Along that same area on Bayshore Road, across the river, we have Fisherman's Village. It's the second most popular tourist destination in Southwest Florida. We've got one of their restaurants moving across the river and going to take their restaurant over there and do another Fisherman's Village over on the Sunseeker side. And across 41 from Sunseeker, we're working with a group out of California to start a Whiskey Joe's restaurant there. They should close on that in September. So everything around 41 in our river area is really going to change in the next 12 months. This is something I'm jealous of.
All right. Business and development. 275,000 square feet of leasable light industrial and warehouse space, which is a half a mile from I-75 interstate. It's fully booked space, and it has a taxable value of $18 million. Some announced tenants include Tervis, Goodman Distribution, Town and Country Industries, Edmondson, Bayonet, and Eurowall. Eurowall and Goodman are expansions of headquartered Northport businesses already. An additional tenant that is not fully public is a national cabinet maker as well.
I think that really proved out. We don't have a lot of spec property in Southwest Florida, so I think that Benderson came in and proven that it works. So we're really excited about it. And as I said, jealous that we don't have it here. Two things I want to talk about that we do have. Again, going back to what is and what can be. Okay, Cheney Brothers is a broadline distributor that distributes restaurant products and stuff to area restaurants. They came over to Charlotte County and Punta Gorda Airport, and they said, listen, what can be? We can locate in Punta Gorda. We've got a distribution facility here. We've got a distribution facility in Ocala, and we've got one in Riviera Beach. From those 3 locations you see on that map, they can service the entire peninsula of Florida from those 3 locations. So that's what made it so interesting for them, and they've proven that market out. Their drivers can come in, load the trucks up in the morning. They get up to Tampa, do their routes. They're back here by dinner. Same thing down to Naples or out to Lake Okeechobee. So that's why they came here. So keep that in mind of why they've proved it. The second thing that's really important in Charlotte County that was proven is we started an aviation airframe and power plants mechanic certification course. These are the kids that are in that program. We have aviation companies knocking on our door now because of these kids. They need this workforce. So it's a really big change for what we're doing here. All of that's happening in what we call the Enterprise Charlotte Airport Park. 4,300 acres, including our airport, that we are trying to attract jobs and businesses to. This is our main asset that we focus on in economic development. And I kind of equate it to a dominoes game, right? We've got a bunch of dominoes lined up, and as soon as one starts to fall, it knocks them all down. We've got a lot happening. It looks like a lot of land, but there's a lot of going on. Center of it, obviously, is PGD, Punta Gorda Airport, one of the top 100 commercial airports in the country, 3rd fastest growing airport in the country. They've got a lot happening, a lot of development and expansion they're doing. That little dot there is Cheney Brothers, 435,000 square foot distribution facility. Again, we talked about why they're there. They've got 2 great exits off of 75 at Jones Loop and US 17. That model has proven so successful that FedEx came in and said, we have to be at the Punta Gorda Airport. So they've broken ground on a 250,000 square foot distribution facility based on what Cheney did. Across the street from that, we have a national developer that came in and said, and had already bought the land and said, we're going to build a 350,000 square foot spec building. Again, spec building is very new. Jerome had a very interesting one. You've got to have done at Toledo Blade, but we're going to get one hopefully also. So we're really excited about that. A little further north, up at 17 and 75, we've had several national developers interested in accumulating some land up there, up to 100 acres, to build up to maybe 1 million square feet of industrial product. So people have recognized where Charlotte County is, what's happening in Southwest Florida, and realized they have to be here. We did get one little spec building. That's a 40,000 square foot spec building. Went so well, they've started their second phase, another 40,000 square feet. It helps us in economic development to actually have product when people come in, and if they want to build a boat, they don't have to be a real estate developer and wait 18 months. They can actually move into a building. We're working with manufacturing companies, whether they be pre-assembled homes or whatever it is. We have plenty of land out there to do that, so we're working with many companies on that. On the north side of the airport, we're working with some aviation companies on building MROs, maintenance, repair, and overhaul facilities, to handle some of this growth. With the Allegiant airline serving over 50 markets right now, there's already 50 mechanics out there. I asked them, I said, where do you keep them? Oh, we're just hanging around. I said, how do you fix an engine? Well, we just put a little tent on it and we work on it. They need an MRO facility, and we have some other big groups we're working with. Hope to have some good announcements on that soon. We're working with some corporate headquarters facilities and R&D companies to come in. There's just a lot of land. One of the things that we haven't addressed, and we'll get to it in a second, is housing. And we'll talk about that's going to be needed because we're talking several thousand jobs. Housing, real quickly. There's some great master plan communities surrounding us and in our counties. In southern part of our county, we have Babcock Ranch, first solar powered town in the country. 18,000 acres, 19,000 future homes, 50,000 future residents, 6 million square feet of commercial. We've done about 2,000 permits out there. It's the 16th fastest growing master plan community in the country. Very impressive. But so is this one.
All right, so Welland Park is the 6th fastest selling master plan community in the country. There's a budding commercial hub there with 60,000 square feet of commercial space, fully leased. This includes 5 new restaurants, a food truck park, a waterfront outfitter, 4 new retailers, 5 new offices, a performance lawn, a town hall, a playground, a splash pad, and a grand lawn. Phase 1 of their plan is to be complete this fourth quarter of 2022. This also includes Cool Today Park, home of the Atlanta Braves spring training facility, which is a major regional driver for sports tourism, as well as a year-round event venue.
And then, of course, we have South County, 10,000 potential units down in South County. So we have a lot of development potential coming, and I think we're managing it smartly, and that's the thing that's so impressive to watch this body and how you work and organize that. Let me talk a little bit about economic development and our focus really quickly, and we'll wrap it up. Sorry it's taking so long. We always focus on trying to bring new businesses. That's a no-brainer. That's what we've always done. We always work with existing businesses, trying to make sure they stay here and also expand here. But we're working 2 new areas, and I'll talk a little bit about those in a second, trying to attract workers and workforce housing. But let me let Jerome talk a little bit about what's happening in Northport.
Absolutely, thank you. The ongoing projects that we have, one is the incentives. Citywide, our incentives is a citywide initiative to develop incentives for commercial growth, affordable housing, and sustainable practices. We do believe it's important for us to have that offering to get people here. Previously discussed Welland Park, but it is one of the main reasons why we are labeled the 4th fastest growing city in the country. Our utility expansion is ongoing so that we can meet the needs of those underdeveloped areas. Commercial water sewer expansion to create more shovel-ready land within Northport is also important, and we do have 2 primary expansions that are in the planning process, and they include I-75 and Sumter Boulevard, as well as I-75 and Toledo Blade Boulevard. According to the city's market feasibility study, these expansions will bring approximately 13,700 jobs to the region once complete. All right. Regional ongoing projects. Some of our attraction projects have yielded exciting business opportunities that are upcoming, such as a manufacturer who is seeking a 10-acre campus, which will end up as a $13 million in capital expenditure, creating 137 jobs. There's a possible business incubator that we're looking at to bring within our boundaries as well. And we're looking into our existing industrial corridor, affordable space for entrepreneurs and startups through the region, because we want to support our small and local business development. And with most of Northport's businesses being home-based, we want an affordable lease space that will kick off their growth and grow our city businesses as well.
I want to talk about something very quickly. You know, I'm thinking about on workers and workforce housing. You know, and I saw a quote that said, "To get something you never had, you have to do something you've never done." So these are some of the things we're thinking about right now in economic development. This is a new program we're launching. The veterans in this group might understand what that is. That stands for Permanent Change of Station. That's how we are now advertising to try to bring workers into Southwest Florida. We need IT workers. We need every kind of workers. We need younger people to come here. So we are going to the military exiters, people that are in the military now and maybe exiting at 20 years old or 30 years old or 40 years old, whatever their age is, they're well trained. We want them to come here and see some of the job opportunities we have here. We're emailing them directly 6 months before they leave the military and introduce them to Charlotte County. We have our major employers on our website that says, here are some of the opportunities and jobs we'll offer you. So that's one way I think we're thinking on what hasn't been done before, and we're trying to bring in a much younger group like you all already have in city. Obviously, we don't have that. Housing, again, something we've never had. We are part of an affordable housing crisis, as is the whole country, to try to bring people down here. Things have changed quite a bit, so we're looking at different things. You all might recognize this as this Bachman track. To the right is what we're talking about with the interchange, but this is a 600-unit apartment project. We're working to get this under contract with a developer that might do 400 affordably priced apartment properties. But again, thinking outside the box, things we haven't done before. There are other ways to get affordable housing. They don't have to be a typical apartment or a single-family detached home. They can be smaller. They can be very multifunctional. They can be cool. They can be interesting places to live. There are different ways to do it. This, for example, is a prefabricated home that's 300 square feet, but it lives like 500. So how would 500 work? Well, think of your bigger spaces. You can make them multifunctional, right? You can have a living room in the daytime, but at night when you go to sleep, the bed would come out of the ceiling, and that's your bedroom. So that's how come it lives like 500. It looks and feels bigger. The beauty of these things is you can stack them. They don't look like projects. They don't look like an affordable housing project you might see in Chicago or New York. This can be very cool. It can be very functional for teachers, for police, for students, for our people that work at Cheney, that work at the hospitals. There's a lot of different use for us. So just a bunch of different ideas, different concepts that we're working on to see if we can get an affordable price product for our workers to live in. And Disney has done this up in Orlando. They have corporate housing. These individuals, employees at Disney, they don't even pay rent. It comes right out of their salary. So they're working on it. They're starting another 1,300 unit facility for them. Thank you. I know it took longer than normal, but I appreciate the time. Thank you for being here. It was very nice to see all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Gammon. Any questions? based on the presentation. Yes, Commissioner Liu.
I don't have a question. I just want to compliment you on that presentation.
Thank you.
It was awesome. And congratulations to you commissioners. You're getting it done. I'm proud of y'all.
We appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Oh, yes.
Also, too, no questions. Again, I just want to thank the commissioners here for hosting us. And I also want to thank staff for all of the work that obviously went into preparing for this meeting. We just really, really appreciate it. And I also want to do a shout out to Commissioner Truex and congratulate him. I understand he is the brand new president-elect of the Florida Association of Counties, and I think we're all happy to have you representing us, Commissioner Truex.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you saying that. I was going to say it at the end because he needs to be, congratulated.
He's worked very hard.
Thank you.
He represents us very well. Okay, we will then move on to B, which is tourism, 2B, and we have Sean Walters, who's filling in for Sean Doherty.
Yes, good afternoon and welcome, everybody. Wanted to give you a brief update on tourism and the partnership we have.
Is it green? Is your button green?
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that.
State your name for the record again.
Sean Walter, I'm the sports and sales manager for the Visitors Bureau locally here. Actually, Punta Gorda Englewood Beach Visitors Bureau. As Commissioner Constant said, I am in pinch hitting for Sean Doherty today, who's our executive director. One thing that's really neat about following Dave is economic development is not only businesses that employ people, but businesses that can help attract tourism. You saw Sunseeker Resort, you saw the Opportunity Fisherman's Village and different restaurants, Whiskey Joe's. Well, we recognize those, but we also recognize the partnership with Northport and the city of Northport and the attractions that you have. Two of those being Warm Mineral Springs and then also Heron Creek Golf Course. They're two great assets that we market through our sales department with collateral, and then we speak about also at different conferences when we talk to people coming to the destination. Mainly our international tourists, and then also, of course, our domestic tourists. We also showcase on the website. Our website gets 1 million hits a year, 1 million visits a year. So we're showcasing the opportunity that if you come down to Port Charlotte, there's also other opportunity and bleed within the city of Northport. I had a great opportunity to meet with your Parks and Recreation Director and staff a year ago and see how can we utilize your ball fields and your gymnasiums. I bid on many events, and in doing so, we need those assets. We need to prove to the event rights holder that this is a great place to come in a great region to host an event. Not only to host the event, but for the people participating and their families. So in doing so, we had an opportunity recently. We used 2 gymnasiums at the Morgan Family Center for USA Amateur Basketball Tournament in April, and then again for their state championship in June. That created over 2,000 room nights, which I'm sure they utilized the Hampton as well. So again, valued partner, we can't thank you enough for the assets you have, and we're going to continue to do so. During our Snowbird Baseball Classic, which we have in February and March, we have Division 1 and 3 schools come down, and they actually have sanctioned games. So they're showcased all over the country. We have Ohio State, University of Pittsburgh, Indiana State. While they're here, they do utilize your Hampton. This last February and March, they booked 500 room nights, and we had about 3 to 4 teams. So we're excited for that partnership and the opportunity that it provides for us. Can't thank you enough. Also, when it comes to baseball, we worked with the city of Northport utilizing the Brave Stadium. We had an opportunity going forward with Welland Park. So we see that as a value of leveraging more baseball tournaments. So we do value this partnership. We look forward to the growth and the other assets we have. But I can't thank you enough for this opportunity and, again, that partnership in providing us these assets. That's it. Any questions?
Yes, Commissioner Langdon.
Just a comment. I sit on the Sarasota County Tourism Development Council, and I see my mission as helping to educate that group on the opportunities of South County, and I do include Charlotte County in that. One example is that our folks had not been tracking folks coming into Punta Gorda Airport and also Fort Myers, and so I politely suggested that they start monitoring those airports, because those will be the points of entry for Northport and probably also for Venice. And so I would be happy if you folks have major events that you would like Sarasota County to be aware of. I would be happy to share those things as Northport's representative on that body.
Absolutely. You know, and we're so lucky because your sports commission, director of sports who visits Sarasota, been a great partner. Sometimes we'll bid regionally and utilize Sarasota County and Charlotte County bringing these type of events, mainly national or international events. So yeah, that would be fantastic to continue to showcase that, definitely.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, Commissioner Seo.
I've been waiting for our friends from Northport to hit us over the head with the fact that they have a World Series team in Northport.
Yes, that's big.
Yeah, championship team. We've been trying for a while with the Rays, but
right.
You know, would you have the stadium for 1 year and they won the title? I mean,
that's right.
It's the magic of Northport.
Yeah, it's Northport.
It is, it is. And you know, and I agree, we also are looking at a marketing campaign to say, you know, come stay in the region and you get to see a baseball game 2 miles north and 2 miles south, or 3 miles maybe. But yeah, to be able to showcase both those assets so close, that's great for a baseball fan.
I love our Charlotte Sports Park, but I have to congratulate the city of Northport. You have a beautiful stadium there, that Cool Today Park. I've been there quite a few times, and the Florida Complex League is going on right now. I was just there maybe 2 weeks ago with my son to watch the Rays play the Braves there. So you have a really nice complex, a really nice asset for the city. But we're so close together that the stadiums are such a mutual economic driver for both of us. I think they complement each other. It's nice to have a team so close that our fans can travel, you know, either way.
Yeah, it really complements a bid when we put in as a region to have 2 spring training parks that close. Definitely puts us up high, a little bit higher on the bid process.
Did you have something? Okay. Commissioner Langdon, I'll tell you, if you know, I guess unofficially, I think you should attend our TDC meeting if you want to. Our next one, I believe, is second Friday. Is it the 5th or the 12th?
Yeah, it's 12th.
Yeah, so August 12th. So please come, and you can just, you know, you can speak under public comments, but we'd love to have you there because I'm always impressed by the presentations we get, our consultants for marketing. I mean, you'll get some really good ideas, and you're a partner in this region, so anything you can glean off of our experience, because we have a top-notch tourism group. They work on a shoestring budget compared to our neighbors to the north and south, but I definitely think you can leverage that, and we would just really welcome having you there, or whoever wants to come from. Yeah, that'd be great.
I would love to.
Wonderful. Yes, Commissioner McDowell.
I have to boast about our aquatic center. It's small, but it's mighty. And it is one of the best kept regional secrets that we have. We are getting a lot of non-residents that are coming that have discovered it. Is it
on?
Yeah, it's on.
It's on.
Okay, it's fine.
A lot of non-residents are discovering it and attending, which helps the economics of the area. Northport is a younger community than Charlotte County, but your grandparents have grandkids that come to the area instead of all the way going down to Fort Myers for Sunsplash. Please come check out our Northport Aquatic Center. Just a shameless little plug of our small but mighty, wonderful aquatic center.
Well, thank you for that, Commissioner. And I will tell you, I have employees that work for me that have young children that absolutely go up there all the time and rave about it. So Charlotte County residents are going up there and utilizing it for sure.
Love to hear it.
Yeah, it's the best.
Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Luke.
A question in regards to the tourism with Legacy Trail. Are you guys discussing and talking about extending or hooking into the Legacy Trail from our Northport area and taking it into Charlotte County?
I will probably defer to Commissioner Constance on that, but I will say that would be an amazing asset for us in tourism to be able to push between our some of the trails we have, parks and preserves. It would be a great opportunity, definitely.
I, offline, have been speaking with former Commissioner Charles Hines because I think he works with a group that's trying to promote that. And I told him about was it 15? Who was that? There was a woman who came to Chambers to talk to us about that U.S. Trail, number 15, and I think, so I pointed him in that direction. It was a June 14th agenda that we had, so he's looking into that. But I see Mr. Elias behind you. Maybe he can shed some light on that, because I know we definitely have a robust bike trails in Charlotte County, and we're trying to hook that through the Sun Trail system. So.
For the record, Public Works, John Elias, Public Works Director. I was practicing in my head for my speech, and Emily's like, get up there. She pointed out that we are currently working with our community services to extend the Sun Trail through portions of West County, so that's an ongoing project that we're working on.
Right, so it's Sun Trail, and there may be an opportunity for Sun Trail to hook into the Legacy Trail. Right. It's just a matter of logistics. There may be a couple of parallel trails because we're so wide, but I think at some point, yes, that will happen. We're very aware of the scope and breadth and success of the Legacy Trail, and there's no way that we're going to try to duplicate that. We're going to try to hook into it. So I think it's coming. I just think we've got to get the siting correct and figure out how it works with our trail system.
Because the Friends of Legacy Trail and those who orchestrate everything up there are really anxious to get the talks and be able to connect with you guys in Charlotte County. Thank you.
We have a bicycle and pedestrian committee for the MPO, and I'm sure they're well aware of it, and we're going to start getting into those finer details as the trail gets completed to the north here. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Sean, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Edward.
All right. Well, at this point, we're going to move on to our 2C, which is our water quality, and then we're going to start with our presentation from Northport, or other way around. Okay, we'll start with our presentation from Charlotte County, and Brandon Moody, our water quality manager, is going to take the floor here.
Thank you. Just keeping you on your toes, Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
So again, for the record, Brandon Moody, Water Quality Manager for Charlotte County, and I am thrilled to be joined today by Elizabeth Wong, who is the Stormwater Manager for the City of Northport. And together, we're going to provide you all with a brief overview of water quality related activities being conducted by both the city and the county in order to illustrate not just how important the work that we're doing is, but also how they actually complement one another. There we go. So before we jump into the nitty-gritty, I want to kind of set the stage and remind everyone just how connected Northport and Charlotte County are in terms of our water. We truly are one water in that we share multiple basins. Northport resides mostly within the Big Slough watershed that originates up in Manatee County, while Charlotte County receives water from three major basins, at least the northern portion of Charlotte County and the harbor. Both the Big Slough from Northport, which discharges into the Myakka River, which then flows into Charlotte Harbor. The Peace River, which also flows into the eastern part of the harbor. And then there are multiple canals and streams that originate in Charlotte County that make their way as well. Now, on the southern end of the harbor, which we won't touch on today, there is also, of course, the Caloosahatchee River, which flows into the southern portion of the harbor. But the connectedness runs much deeper than just a geographical orientation, and that Northport just happens to be north of us, and we happen to receive water from the Myakka River. There are 16 points through which water and drainage from Northport can make their way into the drainage system in the middle part of Charlotte County where we're sitting today. It's not a consistent connection. Right now, during the peak of the wet season, you'll see that connectedness with water flowing from the Cocoa Plum Waterway down into our canals. But this is really just to emphasize that both the actions and activities of us and all of our neighbors to the north of us have a great impact on the health of Charlotte Harbor. And that's an important point to bear in mind, because as we talk about not just how the city and the county are doing our parts to better understand and protect these systems, it's also critical that we're taking these actions now. What you see on your screen are two maps. that demonstrate how we are facing a myriad of impairment issues within the Peace, Myakka, and Charlotte Harbor region. The left map shows waters that have been declared impaired by the Department of Environmental Protection for having high levels of nutrients. The map on the right shows regions that have been declared for having high levels of bacteria, also by the Department of Environmental Protection. This is not a doom and gloom scenario. This is just a reality check. There are other watersheds in the state that have had much worse issues than we've had, that have faced much more dire circumstances, and they've turned it around. The important thing is that they recognized these issues early, they took decisive action, and that resulted in dramatic improvements in their watersheds. These impaired areas are only going to be successfully resolved by us continuing to work together alongside Northport, all of our regional partners, and the citizenry together to identify and address the sources of these pollutants. A fundamental aspect of protecting our watershed is going to be understanding and tracking what is actually in all of these waters. Now, to that end, Northport and Charlotte County's efforts have been complementary in that, as you see on the screen here, the yellow, blue, and pink dots, Northport has been conducting a great deal of monitoring in the Big Slough Drainage Basin, in Myakkahatchee Creek, where you see the blue dots, and on into the tidal Myakka River, which Elizabeth will touch on in more detail in a moment. While Charlotte County is looking at waterways within the county boundaries that directly discharge into the harbor and the Peace and Myakka rivers. The green dots that you see on the map show the locations of the county's new ambient water quality monitoring program, which we just kicked off a few weeks ago. The goal with this program is to better understand the condition of certain waters that enter our county, as well as what impacts we in the county have on those waters before they discharge into the Peace, Myakka, and harbor. Now, at this stage of the program, we're looking primarily at nutrients, at bacteria, and at physical characteristics that may indicate some form of discharges, excessive runoff, or upstream disturbances. Also, for years now, because I don't want to give the impression that this new monitoring program is all that we've been doing, for a number of years we've actually been partnering with the Coastal and Heartland National Estuary Partnership to monitor and assess the waters within the harbor itself. So each month, CHNEP partners with Fish and Wildlife to sample 5 sites in each of those colored regions that you see on the map. We then pay for the analysis of all of those samples. That, combined with a host of other monitoring activities by various agencies, including SwiftMud, Department of Environmental Protection, and other regional groups, really will help to paint a pretty clear picture of the origin and condition of the waters, both within the harbor and rivers, and what's going into them. Beyond that, as far as the county goes, there are other more focused monitoring projects here and there. For example, for the better part of a year now, Utilities has been collecting water samples in our reclaim system to better understand what nutrients are in that reclaimed water that are being used by permittees in their landscaping, golf courses, and whatnot. We can then take that information and better educate those users as to what amount of basically free fertilizer they're getting from the county, and thus potentially reduce the amount that they have to apply themselves. So beyond the monitoring work, Charlotte County for several years have been working to expand sewer service throughout the region in an effort to reduce reliance on septic tanks in areas that are great at risk of allowing inflows of nutrients from those tanks into our surface waters. Now, to date, we've converted over 2,600 units from septic to sewer and are on track to convert another 2,200 at least over the course of this year and over the next 4 years. This is in addition to our mandatory sewer ordinance, which requires new residential constructions to connect to a sewer line if there's one available in their easement or right-of-way that abuts their property. Also, last fall, the commissioners approved addition of advanced wastewater treatment to a couple of our water reclamation facilities on the eastern portion of the county. This should dramatically reduce the amount of nitrogen and phosphorus in that reclaimed water that is utilized by our permittees. And we're proposing implementation of advanced wastewater treatment in other reclamation facilities that are currently in planning for expansion. Last but not least, My role within the county goes well beyond organizing and executing these sorts of monitoring programs. It's about trying to maintain connections with folks like the City of Northport, with other agencies, and with our citizenry on all things water quality, trying to educate them on water quality issues within the region, help them to address their water quality concerns. We are seeing a pretty significant uptick of citizen groups within this region that are banding together to address water quality concerns they have in their neighborhoods. So part of my role is interfacing with those groups to see how we in the county can assist them, but also how some of the work that they might be interested in doing can assist us. Think, for example, like neighborhood watches, where if they go out and they look at what's going on in their canals behind their house on a regular basis, they can help to inform me as their eyes on the ground if they see anomalies, if there are things that we need to investigate further. We've been very successful the last years that I've been here to establish a lot of these lines of connections with these groups who feel comfortable in calling me, letting me know when they see an algal bloom, when they see dumping, when they see something of concern happening in their waterways that I can then go out and take a look at and potentially work with the other departments of the county as needed to address. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth to talk about Northport's activities, but I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to extend a very deep thanks to her. You guys in Northport are very lucky to have somebody with the kind of institutional knowledge that she has. When I first started here about a year and a half ago, I came from the east side of the state. I was very confused about where water was going around here. And it took a number of conversations with Elizabeth, who's been here for a long time and knows it very well, to kind of set me straight and orient me as to how water flows through here so that really I could come up with the best possible monitoring program for our county to help address and analyze that water movement.
Brandon, before you step away,
yes, sir.
Couple quick questions for your side of the presentation. If you can go back to the slide on impaired waterways.
Absolutely. Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, yeah, right there. So it's not intuitive to me because I would think that the nutrient impaired waters would match up almost identically with bacterially impaired. So explain that first. Okay. And then the second question is, why is there an open area at the top of Charlotte Harbor at the mouth of the Peace River that seems to be wonderful, or are we not monitoring that spot? And then why would southern Charlotte Harbor not be bacterially impaired?
Okay.
Because we've had seagrass problems there. So I don't know that I agree with what I'm looking at here.
Sure. So to address your first question, bear in mind that sources of nutrients can go well beyond coming from things like septic systems or other sources that may also carry potential bacteria impairments. We talk a lot about fertilizer, right? And fertilizer ordinances and activities that utilize fertilizer. That's a prime source of nutrients. One of the things that we do that is of some concern with reclaimed water, for example, is that as we've been doing more and more monitoring, what we're learning is that during certain times of the year, that reclaimed water can have some pretty high levels of nutrients in it. And generally speaking, with responsible usage of reclaimed water, there shouldn't be a lot of risk of that water entering our waterways like the harbor and the rivers. However, there can be conditions by which some of that water may discharge in. For example, irresponsible usage, unfortunately, which I don't have any examples of, but in theory. Also, a lot of the reclaimed water that is used are actually stored in ponds. And if we have large-scale rain events, those ponds can actually overflow and discharge. The third way, which thankfully we don't see much of it all around here because we have an awesome utilities department, if we happen to have breaks in reclaim lines and discharges in there. So the advanced wastewater treatment will go a long way towards alleviating any nutrient loading concerns that may occur due to those particular scenarios. So really, in some cases, there's, like we talk about the septic systems or whatnot, bacteria and nutrient impairments could potentially go hand in hand, but they're not necessarily all directly linked constantly. Now, in terms of your question about that spot that's not red, that's an excellent question. And I think there's definitely going to be some more monitoring within the waters that discharge into there that I think is going to shine a little bit more light about the situation there. I will say that there is also a lot of conversation about the specific criteria that are used to determine whether or not there's nutrient impairments in the northern part of the harbor. This is something that SwiftMud has been discussing in their water management plans. So I think that there's still a good bit more investigation that's required in that area to kind of ascertain. But yes, I agree, it does look very odd when you've got this random spot in the middle of all this red stuff that for some reason doesn't appear to trigger the nutrient impairment.
Yeah, thank you. And, so I guess I really like that idea of marketing reuse water as basically fertilizer water.
Right.
And that, I think, to me, to just any other lay person, it's like, okay, now that helps me understand why it's not potable. I mean, it has way too many nutrients in it for a human to consume it. Forget about the possibilities of, where it came from and bacteria. There shouldn't be any bacteria in it, but just the concept of you don't want to be drinking that. It's certainly not fit for human consumption. But the fact that it contains nutrients, it's a freebie. You don't worry about the fact that I have to go to the hardware store and buy a bag of fertilizer. I just have to water my lawn with this already super water, and it's basically Miracle Grow out of the tap, and I'll just use it on my lawn. Now, the good news, I guess, is that you wouldn't be using it in the rainy season because you already have water coming, and you wouldn't want to use it in the rainy season because it would wash through and it would impair the waterways. But you're going to be using it in the dry season when that isn't going to wash away, and that would be the time to use that reuse water.
One thing that, and I also have to compliment utilities on this, they've done a great job of not just collecting these samples and conferring with me about what they're finding, but they've also been talking to the applicators to find out how much water they've been withdrawing at the time the samples are collected. So we can actually calculate the pounds of nutrients that they are applying at the time that the data was collected. So we can provide some pretty hard numbers on that free fertilizer that they're getting there. So
we were having some trouble with a Spring Lake, Sunshine Lake, Sunrise Waterway. And what the homeowners were doing is they were using these irrigator systems where they would suck the water out of this little lake and then spread fertilizer and then use that water to spray it back and to irrigate back down. So it was causing this concentration of fertilizer on top of the fact that we discovered there's this amazing background of phosphate naturally occurring. And it was the perfect storm, and we had a big pea soup lake that how many millions was it to fix that? 2 or 3?
Several.
Yeah, it was, we finally got irrigators in there now, and it's better, but it's just amazing. Yes, Commissioner Liu.
Can I ask, the green dots that you're putting, you said you set them out in the last couple of weeks, so when will you be able to draw some data? 6 months, 12 months?
We're working with contractors to do this. Per the contract, they have 60 days from the time they collect the sample to provide us with the data. Part of the reason why there's that lag there is they're not just collecting samples and giving us lab reports. They're actually analyzing, doing quality control assurance analysis of it, making sure that there's no red flags in the data itself before they kind of present it to us. And so we will very, very much make that available to you the moment we get it, so you guys can see what we see.
60 days is no lag to me for doing what they're doing, but you get that base and be able to track it then every time you pull the samples.
Absolutely, and I should also mention too that on the screen it says that we're collecting these monthly. That will be true starting October of this year, but because we started this in June, we actually have enough funding where we're collecting samples at all of these every 2 weeks up until the end of September. So we really get a lot of data as we go through this wet season.
I was going to say, and that's actually a good thing because we're getting a lot of rain, so you're actually getting different data points as opposed to during the drier season when there's not a lot of flow.
Right. So we'll have a pretty robust data set once we hit October, thankfully.
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
And as Ms. Wong comes forward to give her side of it, we have a fertilizer ordinance that we restrict commercial companies from applying liquid during the rainy season, and we ask that consumers not do it. They do the time release stuff if they want to, but we haven't really done the lockdown in the Home Depots and the Lowe's, but we're trying to get people to do the right thing. Do you have a fertilizer ordinance in Northport as well? Okay. Yes, Commissioner McDowell?
So my fellow commissioners aren't aware of this, but I did put it on an agenda item that we will be discussing our fertilizer towards the end of this month. our fertilizer ordinance prohibits use of fertilizer from June 1st to September 30th. And then we enact, and I think that was enacted in 2007. But we also enacted a resolution with a voluntary non-use of fertilizer year-round. But we're going to be hopefully talking about that, seeing if any tweaks can be made, how we can tweak it. I love your idea of the commercial not being allowed to use reclaimed water during rainy season, because reclaimed water is fertilizer. And I love that idea, so I jotted it down for our discussion. So.
Well, it's a restriction on commercial appliers doing liquid.
Oh, commercial.
Yeah, so yeah, but I mean, I guess you could see if that works. I understand what you're saying as far as if a golf course or some commercial use is too close to the waterways, would you really want them using it year round? Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I think I have Commissioner Deutsch. We're not using the button, so go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, I think the only, and that's great, and fertilizer, ordinance sounds wonderful. The reality is, the stores still sell it. Yeah. So, the responsibility is on all of us, if we're concerned about the environment, and if we're concerned about what we do, is to realize the stores sell it. It's up to the individual homeowner not to use it. And that's the word that we have to give it out. And when we talk about, we sell water quality, we say how important it is. And it is our most precious natural resource that we have in this, incredible part of the world that, it takes more than us to make this happen. And I think that's a key issue. And it always sounds great, but we're frustrated because you can't make a difference unless it happens. And so, and I will tell you, I play my part, because I never fertilize my lawn. I enjoy the golden brown time in the summer, next winter rather, and it's nice seeing the rain, and Richard's shaking his head, he knows where I live and he's seen my lawn. I'll never get the best house in the neighborhood when they put that little award up for the best looking lawn, only by accident. But because I'm near a canal, and I know what would happen if I use it. And, if I really wanted grass to look that great, it was that important, I'd probably put in artificial turf. But I think that's together somehow, and we talk to Hector and we do it, and we get it out in the media that we have the fertilizer ban, but we try to put the responsibility on our citizens to say, hey, it takes all of us to really make a difference. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Can I make a comment?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Commissioner White.
Yeah, this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I've, through my work. What is that? That's right. Say my reputation precedes me, right? But yes, been an advocate for Florida-friendly yards, and I would love to see Northport and the county really focus on letting people know that there's an alternative to having a grass lawn. That's one of the problems when we have fertilizer problems, because they only think of a grass lawn, and getting away from that and the Florida-friendly concept. Charlotte County was just in the news because they were featured in Flip My Florida Yard was in Babcock Ranch, and I thought that was great because they did over somebody's front yard, but it was with Florida-friendly principles of having ground covers and drought-tolerant plants and not needing fertilizer at all. That just should be taken out of the picture. So, and I know that I've been having conversations with our city manager to get that word out to our residents that Florida friendly is a concept that most of them don't know about. And in fact, I'm hosting another Florida friendly virtual workshop on July 20th. I've been doing one a month for the last 3 months. I have over 100 people every month that register for that. So people are looking for that information. So I really would like to see, our government entities just get more involved with that, letting people know.
Well, Commissioner White, thank you for that. And I'm sure you've been out to Babcock, and you realize,
Yep.
I was just out there this week, it's xeriscaped everywhere. All of the plants that they have lining the roadways they don't have an irrigation system because they don't need one. They're all drought tolerant, as you've said, and they really push that and try to get people to understand it's better that way because you're using plants that are native to the area that will live without any sort of need for irrigation, and they're going to have cleaner water there than we are because they planned right from the very beginning.
Yes, and you brought another good point is that the irrigation, that when you plant native trees or drought-tolerant trees and plants, you really shouldn't have to have an irrigation system, because usually there's more of a cost involved in the irrigation system than the actual planting.
Operation and maintenance.
Yes, and then, yes, and I think I have an idea of what Northport pays every year for the irrigation contract that we have. But if you plant the right things, you shouldn't need that kind of.
Your greenways are beautiful and very expensive to maintain.
Yeah.
It's just, you have to decide where do you want to put your money. So, very good point. Yes, sir. Commissioner Sale.
Just real quick on that point about Florida Friendlies in Charlotte County, we came up with a landscaping for a gateways. We had about, I think, 16 or 18 gateways we identified, and we went in with a strategy of a Florida-friendly plan. So we adopted that concept, at least for the county gateways we have here. And to the extent we do irrigation, it's just to get that initial establishment going, and then and low maintenance, just like you were talking. So it's a great concept, and like I said, we've adopted some of those principles here in Charlotte County.
Right, and you have a great resource. Ralph Mitchell is just unbelievable.
Yeah,
he's
good guy.
Paper. Every week I cut that out because it's another plant or shrub that I'm going to bring up in one of my workshops. He's just terrific. Yeah, so thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Great comments. Ms. Wong, the floor is yours. Thank you for waiting so patiently.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for letting me present. My name is Elizabeth Wong. I'm the Stormwater Manager for the City of Northport, and I'm very happy to be here. I am a resident of Charlotte County, and I've crossed over and worked for City of Northport, wonderful city, amazing Charlotte County, and I also serve on the MSBU for Charlotte County. So I'm right there in the middle between everything. So I think I'm not biased on either side, and I also fish in the harbor, and I eat the fish raw, so there's personal interest in good water quality, okay? So. Oops, wrong button. I'm not using your system. I'm going to flip through a little fast, and I'll slow down where you see something that's kind of new. Stop me anytime if you want to ask questions. A big slough is very big. It starts actually up in DeSoto County, where they're proposing a DeSoto phosphate mine in the future. And it moves through Manatee, Sarasota, and hits us. So we do see some pollutants from up north, just like you see some pollutants from us going into Charlotte County. Okay, so the water flows downhill, so we all have an interest in protecting this water. There's 16 points of connection. And where is the cursor? Okay, here we go. And most of these 16 connections do not flow every single day, only when there's a big storm, with the exception of 2 locations. One is at the Como Waterway. If you look at my cursor, this is right next to Toledo Blade. There's a double-covered pipe that's set pretty low, and most of the water from Mount Coco Plum do enter those double culverts roughly year-round. Okay, so that's a good monitoring location, and I've talked at length with Brandon about our system. By the way, wonderful water quality manager. Very lucky you all have him. Very lucky I have him, because I'm a resident too. All right, Fordham Waterway is another one where there's a structure that needs some repair, and right now it's flowing, and we're going to see about doing something about that one. So those are the 2 that may float. The rest is fixed weirs, or at a certain elevation, and only when the water in Coco Plum goes high enough, then will it pop over, right? So most of the time, our system goes from east to west along Coco Plum and discharge into the Mayakachi Creek. But there are times when it pops over to Charlotte County. You've seen this slide earlier on, and I want to talk a little bit more in depth about our 3 sampling programs. Our phosphate baseline program in yellow is 4 sampling spots, and I apologize, my 4th sampling spot is under that blue one, right, the same spot. I should have offset it a little bit. Anyway, we began that in 2017 because we heard about the Mosaic proposed DeSoto. I call it the west and the east mine. There's a nice split. Part of the mine is in the Peace River water basin, and part of it is our big slough. So we were a little bit concerned. We hired a consultant, look at what possible effects that those future mines would have, and they recommended starting off with some baseline data, just to see how it looks like before they actually start. Great idea. Thanks to our commission, they authorized us to start some quarterly sampling, okay, for 32 parameters, including radioactive nuclides. So I have a lot of that data. Not going to bore you with graphs and stuff like that. My boss is telling me to cut it back. Anyway, so we have started, and so far I haven't seen anything that is of big red flags. So it's pretty normal data I've seen. Okay. We also have the HBMP, Hydrobiological Monitoring Program, that's required by a water use permit. That has gone on for a very long time. It's 10 spots that's along the Myakkachi Creek. So, 2 of them, one on what we call the Myakkachi Creek, it is part of the big slough, but creek for short because it's a long name. At the creek, we have a freshwater sampling spot, which is here, and then we have another freshwater spot at the end of our Cocoa Plum, the freshwater portion. Then the rest of the spots are tidals, because they want to know how the water quality is in the tidal section too. And this data, I've graphed it since 2006, so I have some very good long-term data on how these are doing. The last one, which is in pink, are 8 sampling sites, 7 of which are in the surface water, and the 8th one is at the wastewater plant, and I'm going to go in a little more detail with that. This is something that we started just last year, November, and our commission was interested in seeing what we are sending into Charlotte County, and a few other reasons. So, one of the main reasons for doing that program is to see if there's a link between possible leaching from septic systems into our surface water. And we've had many meetings with Brandon and with DEP, and we selected a tracer, sucralose, to see, by monitoring that, to see if septic systems are leaking into our waterways. And I'm going to give you some data on that one. Okay. Another reason for doing that program is, of course, to see what's coming into Charlotte County. So we look at what is actually flowing, right? So we're monitoring that Como waterway, that point right there, and a few other parameters that will help with our NPDES program. It started in November last year, and for now we're doing a 1-year program on a monthly basis. So after a year of data, I will be presenting the results, all the results, right? For now, I only can show you what I have so far. Okay. The Canal Creek Sampling Program, which is the one that just started last year, we're monitoring what's coming into Northport. And it is interesting, there is stuff coming into Northport. We're monitoring it to see the baseline. And primarily for this sucralose tracer study, we're taking what's in the water before you see too much houses. Human influences. So the north part is mostly preserve areas and agricultural areas, not too many septic systems. Okay. Then we're looking at S2, which is what's flowing in Cocoa Plum that goes into Como, which would then go to the Charlotte County. Then we pick 2 canals, the bottom of 2 canals, Lagoon and Makahi Waterway, because there's a lot of septic systems along these canals. So we want to sample it and see what the water looks like. We pick canals that do not have reused water because sucralose can end up in reused water and sprayed on the lawns, right? And we don't want that to cloud our data because we want to see what's coming out of the septic system may leach into the canal. See? So there are a couple canals where we have reused water, so we didn't pick those. Then we sample a few points along Cocoa Plum, and also at the very end of our Myakkachi Creek before it pops over into the tidal portion. Then the last sampling point is S8, which is at our wastewater plant, just to show that human generates sewage which has sucralose, right? To say, yes, we have sucralose and that's good to be used as a tracer. Sucralose is an artificial sweetener called Splenda. Everybody's familiar with it, right? And the reason why it's a good tracer is because it does not degrade in the environment. It takes a lot of high temperature to also degrade. So it doesn't decompose, so it's good, it'll stay there, right? And when we drink this stuff, just remember, these are artificial sweeteners, right? We don't absorb all of it. We whiz out, a good bit of it, right? So that'll go into our septic system, and if it leaches, it may get into our waterways. So, great tracer. We discussed this with DEP, and they thought it was such a good tracer, they helped us do the analysis. Right. So other pollutants that we also take in the sampling program, the nutrients and bacteria, and some physical parameters. Okay. And here's the results of sucralose. Very interesting. I make the yellow dots as in proportion to the concentration. I only have 6 months of data so far. Okay. At our baseline sampling spot, this is what's coming to Northport where I don't expect sucralose. Guess what? I didn't get any sucralose. It's below detection limit. So good. We don't have any naturally occurring sucralose. At these spots where we have human influences, we have picked up quite a bit. I was very happy to see that amount of concentration. I've seen other studies that it has been used in other areas, and I believe you all have a few data points on sucralose too. It's even ours is even higher than what I've seen on other studies, right? And then of course, the one in the wastewater plant is the highest. So there is a concentrated amount of sucralose in raw sewage. Not raw sewage. I'm sorry. The sample is taken after filtration, after settling, filtration, so it doesn't have interference. So that's the sucralose that makes it out into reused water. Okay. So I really think there's a little connection, and this is during the dry season. So it'll be very exciting to see what comes up in the wet season. All right, we've done a lot of public education on fertilizers, on nutrients, on bacteria. We have great success with our videos we release on Scoop the Poop campaign, lots of hits on social media. This goes on. Okay. We've also done some great things with our regulations. I think developers I may be getting a reputation out there for asking developers to ante up and do some LIDs, low impact development concepts, right, to help get the nutrients back in the ground where it can degrade naturally rather than just run off in the surface water, right? One of which you guys had talked about a little earlier is using stormwater for irrigation. We've had quite a bit of success with that. All the nutrients that go into the stormwater pond, pump it back out and put it on the plants, right? The pond, of course, can go dry if you just pump everything out. So I always suggest doing recharge well, shallow well, pump water in the pond, take water from the pond, furthest away from the recharge, pull all that dirty water out, and then put it back on the plants. Great, great, great LID. It's called stormwater harvesting. So let's see. I'm getting to the end. I'm going to turn over to Nancy.
How are we advancing slides?
You just press the down arrow.
Down arrow?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, Nancy Gallinaro, Utilities Director for City of Northport. Brand new as of February of this year. I'm one of those people whose U-Haul was packed up and dropped off in Northport, from Maine, though. I'm very happy to be here. So I'm just going to give you an update on an important program that we have, which of course is our expansion program. In December of 2020, Commission approved to move forward with the design of the Wastewater Expansion Master Plan. In May of 21, Utilities received approval from Commission to move forward with the design of Phase 1, which we're going to show you, Blue Ridge Salford North. In December, Commission determined a maximum cost for existing homeowners to be $5,235 or current capacity fee and meter fee to connect to water and wastewater. Our staff, my staff, was tasked with establishing and modifying an ordinance for finance, for prepayment options, and also a hardship program. That now is with our legal department. And May 10th, we went forward to Commission, and they gave us approval for the procurement of a vacuum station property. And the design of Phase 1 is in progress for the new vacuum pump station. Anticipated to be completed in about a year, and then we have about 3 or 4 months for the submission and award of the contract to build. So this is an example of the master plan. We actually have 29 sewer sheds, which is pretty extensive. So out of those 29, it was up to our engineer to determine what would be the best to move forward with, and that was Phase 1, or Blue Ridge Salford North. And in there were 1,570 total lots, which we learned a little bit about earlier, about all these lots that we have. 558 currently vacant. 10 parcels out of that were identified as potential vacuum station locations. Using some pretty good criteria, including the density of this particular area and its proximity to our sewer system, they ranked 5 properties. The first property, we were unable to procure the property, but on C, that you hopefully can see in that drawing, that was the property that we chose, the property that was approved, and the one that we're going forward with. So with that, my short little piece, they're always a tough act to follow. I'm not the scientist, but I do want to just throw out that coming here and seeing this is really encouraging for me, because I was in Portland, where I served on the estuary board for 8 years, and really the regionalized approach is the way for us to protect, preserve, and even restore our waterways. So I'm really excited that we're partnering like this. Thank you. Yes.
Can I ask a question real quick? So if you can go back to the slide that has your multicolored map. Yes. So you said 29?
We have 29 sewer sheds. The one that you're looking at is 2.
2, correct. How many of these are active right now? Like the one you identified, number 2, is the one you're going to work on.
Yes.
How many of these have you worked on, or is this the plan?
This is the first one.
So number 2 is the first?
Yes.
But you don't have sewer anywhere else?
Oh, we do.
Yeah, so
yes.
where on this map, this is the area that is undone?
These are all of our sewer sheds, so it does include areas that are sewered.
So off the
have
top,
that map.
yeah, off the top of your head, how many of the 29 are already done?
That's a good question. I would defer to maybe somebody with a little more time here. Jason, can you?
I mean, roughly, is it half, or?
I believe the light green is where the utilities already are, and the ones that are numbered are the water.
Okay, I got you. That makes a lot of sense. So, got it. The areas that are white are watershed areas that are not even populated. The ones in green are already on the system. And then you've got you have as much work as we do. My goodness, look at that.
We do.
We have a lot of work.
Yeah.
But
Commissioner Doherty.
Yeah, being the individual here that's probably lived in the region the longest, in my 50th year, I do remember that they have a significant amount, especially along North and South Biscayne Drive, that was the original Mackle area, similar, what had all the sidewalks, water and sewer. I think it's a development called the Jockey Club, too.
That's where I live.
I believe that has sewer.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's a lot of subdivision sections up in Northport, older ones that had sewer, like we did.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Tsao.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just want to compliment the city on their sewer expansion program.
Yes.
I know you guys are going to go through some tough votes. It's a very difficult situation. When we go back and look at some of those earlier slides of those undeveloped lots that were yellow, you're talking about tens of thousands of lots that without sewer, you're looking at the proliferation of septic systems. I think what the decision you've made, and I believe we made it here in Charlotte County, is really a legacy decision. I think decades from now, somebody's going to look back, some historian, and say this was the time where the city and the county stepped up and started on a pathway to do the septic to sewer conversion and the expansion. We scored our system based on proximity to the water and a whole bunch of different elements to prioritize what sections we're going to go first. Mrs. Wong, I guess she's here in Charlotte County. I'm sure she followed our sewer expansion program. And it's difficult because of the money. We'd all like to deliver projects as affordable as we can, and unfortunately sewer expansion is one of those things that is constantly a work in progress in terms of finding the subsidies, the grants and things, but I encourage you to keep moving forward. Go after those grants, try to think out of the box and be creative on funding because, that's the elephant in the room. I think a lot of people would acknowledge that sewers are better than septics, but when you ask them about paying for it, you may get a different story. But, thank you for doing what you're doing, because as we just discussed, we're all interconnected in the waterway. So what you're doing there is going to impact us down here. So I just want to thank you guys for making that tough decision. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Yes, and one other quick comment. I've been sort of watching the county also in terms of how you've been rolling out your programs, and something that really struck me is how long you have been doing community engagement and education. I think you did your first water summit 15 years ago, and I think you just did one again in the past year. And so I'm hoping that my city kind of follows your lead on that, because I think it will be a little bit easier for our residents to understand the importance of doing this, and perhaps resting a little easier with the cost of doing it when they realize the risk benefit of doing nothing, the risk of doing nothing. So I really like what you guys have done with community education and engagement, and I think we need to do that also in Northport, more of that in Northport.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Langdon. Commissioner Doherty?
Yeah, I was just going to compliment the city as well on the fact that you've chosen the vacuum system technology. We struggled with that. We studied it. Traditional gravity, which is what you got where you live, and other locations, obviously just destroys a neighborhood. So the vacuum is the current technology. We're learning too, but that's the great part. Well, we can learn together. The O&M side of this, though, is going to be interesting to watch as time goes on. But it looks like the right way to go. So I want to compliment you on it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Commissioner Luke.
While the compliments are being shared, I have to compliment our staff. As a commission, we were kind of tough and rough when we saw pricing come back, and we told them we don't really want the citizen to pay much more than $5,000. And as you saw the number up there, it was just slightly over $5,200 is going to be the cost per resident. So they did a really good job with the pencil and paper and erasers. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We did. I inherited wonderful people.
Well, I'm going to put myself in the queue real quick, Commissioner. So just want to say I really appreciate all the comments, but Commissioner Seo, you're correct. I mean, the fact that you guys are taking this initiative, it's going to take a while, but how well you clean up that watershed absolutely impacts us and our waterways, and this is definitely a collaborative effort. So this is of all the talks we've had, they've all been great, but I think this is the one that really hits home for us because we've worked so hard for so many years. Back in 2014, I guess, I was pushing for it in 13 and 14. It was not politically correct to do it, and I was actually running for re-election, and Ray Sandrock pulled me aside and he goes, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I said, "Yes, we need to do it." He goes, "Yeah, but you're running for re-election." I said, "I don't care. We got to do the right thing." So fortunately, we had great commissioners, all of whom are here except for Commissioner Seo. He was not on yet, but Commissioner Truex was, and we had that push, and it was not easy, and we went through a lot of difficult meetings, but I think now that it's 8 years later, the people get it. They understand it, and they really understand that it's not just for now, but it's for future generations. It takes 5 years once that sewer goes in for the land to get completely washed out and to actually see those benefits. We've had studies shown to us that proves that. So, but I really appreciate the comments because we do really care that you're great stewards up there because you're helping us. So thank you, Commissioner Seo.
Well, to your point, I was actually a candidate at the time, and I ran on septic to sewer conversion and got elected. So,
yeah, there you go.
Maybe it wasn't that bad. One thing that I was curious, I thought there was a misprint on the slide because I've been following this on, the costing in Northport. I was hearing numbers in the 20s and low 30s. Then I saw 52, and I said maybe they forgot a 1. Maybe you got it down to 15. I would be curious, maybe not in this setting, but if your staff, I'd like to know, is this price unique to the certain section you're doing so there was some cost benefit there, or if this will be the number for all your areas? I was just curious, how did you go from 20s and 30s to 52? I was shocked.
There are a lot of factors behind that, and I wish I could recite those. Maybe Jason's going to come up and... My apologies, that's all still pretty new to me. But
Yeah, that's okay.
I would just say, while Jason is coming up, pre-COVID, pre-supply chain issues, our estimate of what it would cost to hook up every lot in the city of Northport was $950 million.
Because our cost is soup to nuts. We do the work on the person's property. We do the connection, abandon the septic, and so on.
Yeah.
Jason Yarborough, Assistant City Manager of the City of Northport. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak with you all today. So we've identified water and sewer connection costs per house on average about $32,000. And what we've, so on the sewer side of the house, it's more like $20-something thousand. So what we've proposed and worked with City Commission is to identify surtax money to supplement that. The cost is the cost. It's who pays it and how you fund it. And also, I had great success when I was a utility director in another life of using, going out to the voters and going neighborhood by neighborhood and having them vote on self-assessments. And some people will and some people won't, but it's also another good funding source for that as well.
So you said you're subsidizing it with other tax dollars?
Yeah, surtax. It's a surtax money, yeah.
Okay.
Y'all have that's one of the primaries that we have for our capital projects. Y'all have a lot of tools in the toolbox that we don't necessarily have because we're not a county.
Okay, because I know, we're regulating the certain monies we can use for certain work that we perform. So now that you mentioned, maybe the city has more flexibility than we do in how we use tax dollars.
Well, we'd give a right arm and a leg for some of the tools that you have.
Yeah.
Is it your portion of sales tax from Charlotte?
Yeah, it's our 1 cent. It's our penny sales tax, which is coming up in November for a vote.
Yeah, because our penny is tied to specific bundle of projects, which is not sewer, so we can't stray from what the voters voted on.
Yeah, ours has some more flexibility.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting.
That's why he's got that prominent penny on his lapel there. That's
Please, for those who are listening, vote however you're going to vote in November for the on the surtax.
So you're going to dedicate that going forward for all sewer expansion? Because that'll leave that money not unavailable for other things.
Not all of it, but there's a lot of projects, and surtax was one of those that was identified as a way to offset the cost to the residents.
Yes, Commissioner White.
Is that me? Yeah, I want to thank Charlotte County for spearheading this whole thing with the septic to sewer conversion, because it makes it easier to push and to convince people. You probably know who Pat Spence is from El Jobeen. She has letters in the editor all the time. And when they finally, and where's Elizabeth, this is where you live, El Jobeen, right? And when that finally happened, she said something like, "Thank goodness we're civilized. We have our sewers." And I don't think people realize how limited your other decisions are when you still have septic. We were talking about, tiny houses and other ways to utilize a single family lot, but you're on septic. You really, your choices are limited when you still have to deal with that horrible thing that we have. So I just appreciate that you're going forward. You have been going forward. It makes it an easier pill to swallow. So for people, I know that they were very concerned about the cost, but it is the right thing to do. And like you said, leaving a legacy, because even when we were talking about the conversion, I had people calling me saying, "When is this going to happen? Because we're thinking about buying." And I said, "Wait, this is not going to happen for a long time, unfortunately, where they were living." So people are looking for this. So it's just really great that we're all surrounded and we're on the same page with that.
Yeah, speaking about El Jobeen, I mean, it severely affected their quality of life. There were times of day they couldn't use their facility because it wouldn't function properly. I want to say, thank goodness we have a governor, Governor DeSantis, who really gets this, because I think water quality has been one of his prime concerns, and we have a legislature that's finally figured it out. And I actually look forward to them having an environmental work program like FDOT. We've talked about how there's every district gets a certain amount of money, and you've got an FDOT secretary that works with the MPOs, and the roads go in. And the same thing should be happening for water, sewer infrastructure. So hopefully that may take a couple of years, but we may see some additional mechanisms to get this done. So, thank you.
Great.
All right, any other questions or comments? Very good. So I guess we're going to move on to transportation. That would be item number 2D. And I see Mr. Elias coming forward.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Again, for the record, John Elias, Public Works Director. As I get into my presentation, I know one of the emphasis we were trying to put on this presentation is to show the cooperation between the two agencies. I have a unique perspective in having worked here for a very long time. I can tell you that as I progress through the organization and become a project manager, I've worked extensively with City of Northport staff, and they've never been any more than a phone call away. Ms. Balia, Ms. Wong, of course, Mr. Quick, who used to work with us, Mr. Speak. We talk to each other regularly. If we have an issue, we try to work through it. We assist one another in things, so it's a very collaborative relationship, and I'm very, very glad we have that. So I'm going to touch on some high-level stuff here and kind of go through some of the agreements we have and what those agreements mean. So we've had an interlocal agreement with the City of Northport since 2002. It'll probably be one of my initiatives here in the next year or so to probably update that and just clean it up, because we do that working with legal and just clean up the language and make it look a little more new and fresh. But what that essentially does is allow us to share the costs of doing stuff like roadway and drainage maintenance, primarily along Chancellor and Hillsborough. We split the cost. And I won't read all those, but it's basically all the stuff that goes along with maintaining infrastructure, roads, drainage, stop signs, street signs, those type of things. Including roadway resurfacing, which is your bigger ticket item. We've recently done Chancellor in 2021 and part of Hillsborough in 2021, and we'll probably be getting ready to resurface Hillsborough, the rest of it, that was done in 2004. We usually do things on a 20-year cycle, so it's due to be done here relatively soon, and we'll work with Northport to help fund that. Back when I was a project manager, I actually worked with Ms. Wong, and I think we did 2, 3, or maybe even 4 control structures along Chancellor, joint projects. We actually had our project meetings up in city offices, and it was, again, a very collaborative relationship. Signalized intersection at the intersection of Hillsborough and Toledo Blade, we split that. And the Cranberry-Hillsborough intersection that currently has a project that we sat on the team with Northport, and it's a 50-50 split with Northport taking the lead. It's currently under design, and that's what it's potentially going to look like as it gets completed. And that's about all I have. No, I'm kidding. The future interchange is probably the hot topic here that everybody wants to talk about. So. As we've grown, transportation is obviously a big item that's on everybody's mind. We have so many people here trying to move so much traffic. So one of the challenges is working collaboratively, not just with our neighbors to the north, with the City of Northport, but also with our MPO and our FDOT to try to figure out places that we can put interchanges along the interstate to help alleviate some of these transportation areas. Having worked here 33 years, long before veterans ever existed, and the corridor that went down through there, and now suddenly it's a main corridor with the Kings Highway interchange, which is super congested, as we all know. We're trying to look at other ways that we can pop traffic off these arterials and get them through neighborhoods and get people moving. As an aside, I would even say up there off Prineville, that's become a really heavily used intersection with a 4-way stop that I've actually tasked my team to do some counts there, because I wouldn't be surprised if that's set up for a signal relatively soon, just because of the amount of cross traffic that goes through Northport and Charlotte County. So with this interchange concept, originally the discussions we were having early on with FDOT indicated that we would probably have to pick one or the other, either a Raintree or a Yorkshire. Again, there's reasons why both those might make sense. But the challenge we have is that these are in the city of Northport, so we can't necessarily have a lot of say in that. It's just we are a seat at the table, and we're listening and having discussions. More recently, and I think I kind of go through this, the locations of the interchange have now kind of morphed into possibly having both constructed, which is a different approach than what we were previously having discussions with FDOT. So it was, I think some of you came to one of the board meetings and said that in talking with FDOT, it's really important that we have a unified approach, which I think is one of the catalysts for this meeting. And I can tell you again that staff, MPO, and I'll kind of go through all the people that were at this meeting, we are certainly meeting, and I think it certainly benefits both organizations to have a unified approach, but there's a lot of challenges with that, and I'll just kind of keep this super high level and go through some of them.
Mr. Elias, before you go forward,
yep.
I want to mention, back in about 2018, I think we were suffering because Midway Boulevard was taking forever to fix, but we had to reroute traffic, and so that interchange at Veterans and Kings Highway was abysmal, and we didn't have the light at Loveland and Peachland, so it was a catastrophe, and we realized we need another interchange, and we started having a discussion about, well, we could do it at Veterans, but it doesn't make as much sense when our neighbors to the north, we really should collaborate on this. Let's go, and I brought it to the joint meeting of the MPOs, and I think Commissioner Carasone was there representing the city, and Al Mayo from Sarasota County, and much to my joy and surprise, they said, this is actually a pretty good idea. I think Commissioner Carasone still wasn't really sure because it was so brand new to her, but I said, look, we need to get this done. It makes more sense to do it in your neck of the woods, so we're giving you first crack, but if you say you don't want it, it'll go on record that you don't want it. And fortunately, you guys said, yeah, great idea. It took 5 years. I think the biggest thing that was so incredibly important about this was that the representation from Manatee County said, hey, this is a great idea. And we couldn't figure it out, but apparently what they want to do is have more of an influence to get traffic from the Kings Highway area rerouted to get to that area. Add another road back, I think, north of the Walmart, maybe to the southern part of where our water authority is, but somewhere in there, because that southbound traffic on that road would completely pass by anything and be able to be routed into Northport that way. So there's a lot of advantages to doing this, and if it gets done in 15 years, that's a blink of an eye when you come to federal funding in an interstate. And I really like this design on your last slide about the access roads, because it blew me away. You don't need the big four-leaf clovers and all the other stuff going on. So there's a real efficiency to it. And now I understand why all of a sudden they said we want to do both streets, because it actually makes it this beautiful, large intercept to I-75. But, the history is that the idea came forward and it was received and accepted, and the fact that we're all moving together regionally on this is, I think, why it's gaining such traction. And we keep it on our MPO agenda every meeting. We talk about it, whether it moves or not. We have a list at our MPO, we keep a list of FDOT subjects, and at first they were like, well, why are you keeping them on there? Well, because they're not finished yet. We want to keep talking about it until the funding comes. So now they're realizing they have to give us updates, but it's a great collaboration. Yes, sir. Commissioner Sale.
Yeah. So I understand that's what we were doing, but then Commissioners Luke and McDowell came into our chamber and said FDOT wanted some type of support. So I would certainly propose, if we wanted, to come up with a joint resolution of support showing our commitment to FDOT to work together in a request for that interchange, because I think that's what they want. So I think as an action item, if we could direct our staffs to come up with some type of joint resolution showing our commitment together to work with FDOT to advance that mission, I mean, that may be one thing we can direct today.
Yes, I'll take Commissioner Langdon first.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and I think if both municipalities can come to the table with a joint plan, mutually supported, maybe we'll get those interchanges in 12 years rather than 15 years. But also, too, the City of Northport in 2023 will begin developing its strategy for the development of the Yorkshire area. And so I see a lot of opportunities for us to collaborate on that. Of course, it abuts to the county, but we have a major Northport arterial road, Price Boulevard, that goes right through that area. And perhaps if we collaborate a little bit more closely together, we might find an opportunity to do something when we plan the expansion of that road to support our Yorkshire activity area, that we can also do some good for the county as well. I would even want to suggest myself and Mayor Emmerich both sit on the Sarasota-Manatee MPO, and I think it might be useful, particularly since we're going to be doing so much planning out in that area, for us to have regular participation in the Charlotte County MPO, whatever form that might take. And I think the city and our city staff would be very open to having that discussion. And at this point, it might be at the engineering or the technical committee area, but I think it would be wise for us to really have a closer integration there with our MPOs.
Thank you. Commissioner McDowell and then Commissioner Doherty.
Yeah, the joint resolution is a very good step in the right direction. It's the first step. We have to show FDOT that Charlotte County and the city of Northport and even Sarasota County are wanting these interchanges, because if we don't show them that from day one, they may start to feel that why are we talking about this? We don't have any formal action showing that this is jointly agreed to. I think by doing that now, instead of in 5 years, we might get to that 12-year completion date, maybe even an 11-year completion date. It sure would not hurt. There's no harm in doing this joint resolution. I would really think it would be very wise of us to include Sarasota County. They're not here. That would be a different conversation. But if we start, because we're the joining land, I think it would be a step in the right direction. And then bring on Sarasota County.
Well, we have David Hutchinson in the audience, so we might want to bring him up for a quick comment. Commissioner Doherty, thank you.
You two beat me to it. I was looking at this saying, what's the deliverable? What does DOT, what does LK need, in Bartow to show that we are together on this and want to move ahead? I certainly support the idea of a joint resolution, whatever's the appropriate piece of paper. Mr. Chairman, you chair in the MPO next Monday. I think it would be a good idea to at least to share with DOT that we've had this meeting, of course, and find out what is the piece of paper that they need to keep moving ahead on this whole interchange. And by the way, I agree with you. This layout was unique, very interesting, and I conceptually think it's a great idea the way it's laid out right now.
Well, and that item is continually rolling on our agenda, so it's there to be talked about anyway, so we will certainly bring that up. And if I forget, one of these two gentlemen will remind me.
I'll be sitting in the audience.
Commissioner Liu, you can wave your arms at me. Commissioner Liu.
Appreciate the recommendation. I think it's excellent. Our staffs talk all the time, as you said, and it's great collaboration at that level. We talk individually, our representatives do, at the MPOs, but we at this level that make the decisions haven't come together in a long time. So I think this level is what is needed so that the MPOs know that the deciding decision makers are joined together in this endeavor. It's what they need to see. Staff can talk all they want to, but until they get the approval at this level, you're talking, you're spinning wheels. So the decision makers need to be able to speak up and do something, and I see him standing.
Yeah, I'd like to get, you can come to either podium, but I'd like to get a comment from Mr. Hutchinson because he's obviously very involved in this process.
Well, thank you. And I hope your Public Works Director will stay there and, finish going through those points.
Name for the record. Just name
David Hutchinson, Sarasota Manatee MPO. Thank you for having me here today, Commissioners. I appreciate it. And I commend you for meeting. I think it's productive, clearly, and it's important, and it will make a difference when FDOT moves forward with their consideration of I-75 and future interchanges. I think that I'd also want to make sure I compliment your city manager and county manager for their organization of the agenda, and not just them, but all of their staffs, because clearly it's not just the agenda, but all of these areas of work that progress is being made in is pretty impressive. It's it's an exciting snapshot of the past, but also the present and a really bright future that is apparent. We're moving forward in so many areas. I can assure you that our MPOs work closely together, and that we've been working kind of behind the scenes with your MPO and other jurisdictions and your staffs in a variety of areas and disciplines to advance the ability for this interchange to go forward in the future. One of the ways we did that was we said we all have to be on the same sheet of paper, so we made it a big sheet of paper. And we'll keep it that way until they get to the point where they're actually doing the design and the studies, and who knows, in the long run, they could end up connecting this to Kings Highway to help resolve some of those issues. So we don't know exactly what and where will be built, but I think that as we both MPOs have this in our long-range plans. We've allocated, projected future federal funding to the project and to some local projects that support it. And that's why I want you to finish hearing the rest of his presentation, because one of the most important things FDOT wants to see is, some of the on-the-ground infrastructure that will be there in the future that would help demonstrate the need and where the traffic's going to come from that would need an interchange. Right. I think that what we saw today was how a lot of, how all of these disciplines are interdependent and related. MPOs work on, through our long-range plan process, things like economic development and resiliency, and all of these things tie together. I'm aware of the time. We're past the time. But I'm also thinking, okay, well, nearly 20 years ago, I was driving up US 41 and I-75 to the Charlotte County Airport when I worked for FDOT to respond to Charlie. And, that was a long time ago, but a lot of the results that you heard about today were set in motion after Charlie. And they've taken years, and now you're seeing these results come to fruition. So time is important, and these things do take time. Legacy decisions was mentioned, and the work that is done today towards an eventual interchange, and it might be 10 or 12 or 15 years, but it might be 10 or 12 years before a PD&E is started, but it won't take long once all these things, the dominoes get put in place. So transportation infrastructure, as you mentioned, take time, but we're in it for the long haul, and momentum is important, and we have some momentum. So congratulations on this meeting and keeping this going. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for comments, and stick close because there may be some questions. This is emblematic of the fact that we're not growing together. We have grown together. We are right on each other now, and this is so important. I have Commissioner Deutsch in the queue.
Thank you. Collaboration is so important. Most of our commission and our MPO know that, but I'm going to share a story because you guys don't know this. It was about 10 years ago that we had a joint meeting with Lee County. We were fighting to get Burnt Store Road done and off the ground. And we finally convinced Lee County that it would be great because we had Burnt Store Road as our #1 priority. And according to our MPO director at the time, we got Lee County to make Burnt Store Road their #1 priority. And I'm trying to remember the name of the director, with a couple directors that go on our MPO.
Mark.
And he had said, wow, that's never happened before. And we were ready, and we had some other issues, which I won't bore you with, where we didn't get part of it done, but we got Burnt Store Road done, and the key was finishing Burnt Store Road literally was more important to Lee County and Cape Coral than Charlotte County, because outside of going through the city down, Fort Myers, that was their only evacuation route in a disaster hurricane. So 2-3 months later, we're up at a joint meeting with Sarasota, and I don't know if you were there or not, Sarasota, Manatee County, and I shared the story, and I said, I want you guys to know, and I think Commissioner Hines was there, and I said, I'm sure we'd be happy to make River Road next year our #1 priority. Commissioner Hines said to me, we don't have River Road down as a priority. And I said, what you don't have River Road? I said, let me tell you this, Commissioner. River Road is as critical to Charlotte County as Burnt Store Road was to Cape Coral and Lee County. And a couple interesting things happened after that. Real quickly, we got part of River Road done, I noticed, and then the trade and the deal was made to get it done. But if we're going to work cooperatively, and we need help from Sarasota, we've got to get River Road done. And River Road has to be done not just to 41. It certainly has to be done as soon as possible to Winchester, and very shortly after that, all the way to Placida. And the reason why, and I've said this at the MPO and I've said it at our board, we've got to look to the future. We have to think ahead. 776 has trouble handling the traffic now over the Myakka between Charlotte County, where we are now, over the sports complex, and getting down to Placida, Rotunda, Gulf Cove, South Gulf Cove, which are 2 of the 3 quickest growing areas in Charlotte County. And when we have an accident down there, now this is where you guys come in.
River Road.
Guess where the traffic goes? 41, because the only way we have to go is River Road. And you know what? To get from the sports from the sports complex, or that bridge, to get to Rotunda, you're looking easy an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes. And I know major projects take a long time. No one talks about a tunnel, no one talks about a bridge, but we have got to come up with a second crossing of the Myakka. And I've been stuck in traffic there twice, several times, with a helicopter, with bad accidents and whatever. But it's something we have to look ahead, and we have to work. And the good thing for Northport, depending on where that would be, and I'm not, I'm sitting in town planner, I've never been I'm not a traffic engineer. Kenny's the engineer, he solves all our engineering problems. Who knows where that'll be, but just think, if that second crossing's around Sumter, that's going to alleviate a lot of traffic on 41 in Northport. So there's a plus in it for you guys too. But I think that, we've got to look down the road. We have to work cooperatively. We've got to work together. Winchester Road is in pretty good shape now, but that section of River Road, at least to Winchester, is terrible. It's a single lane. It needs work. It goes by the preserved forest. It has to be done. And we can't do that because none of it's in Charlotte County. We can help and be supportive. But that's, again, one of the areas where I was so excited about this meeting, where we can work together, which is good for the future of both counties. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. All right. Yes, Commissioner Luke.
Just so you're aware, the Yorkshire area, our Activity Center 6 is kind of the final frontier for Northport, but boy, are we working on that. And I want you guys to know the Collier study that was done, they have added to that so that they're looking out that direction, looking at potential of infrastructure going, placing all of it within the urban service boundary, looking at that master plan of design to it. There are many people contacting our economic development team who are interested in that property. So I don't want you guys to think that because it's undeveloped at this point in time, that it's going to stay that way very long. It's not going to. It's going to be exploding because we are preparing ourselves for that area. And hopefully within a couple years, both of those interchanges are going to be needed for that area and you guys.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Seo.
Yeah, on the next steps, John, you have a request, I guess, for interchange justification report, some traffic numbers. How do you propose we go about doing that?
So where are we talking about, sir?
The last bullet point on next steps.
Gotcha, I'm sorry.
I want to make sure if there's any action items, we're not missing something.
Yep, nope. So that would be a staff-driven thing. We're working with the FDOT study for veterans. That'll be part of that. And again, we're working with both MPOs. And I would also add that DeSoto County was also at this meeting because there's an element up there. So that would be something that we're working with everybody to generate that. But I think I was almost going to do a mic drop when you said a joint resolution. That kind of, I think, is what'll get this party started.
Okay. So you don't need any direction. That's a staff-driven.
I think we're working on that, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I might suggest that you don't want to ask for that actual report too soon, because if it results in the wrong answer, right, then it could delay the interchange. So all of these other steps and even construction of some of the on-the-ground local infrastructure that will connect to the interchange before you ask for an IJR will be important.
Thank you. Mr. Elias, is this your last two slides?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr.
Can you
Chair.
sorry, I got another comment. Can you bring up the actual map?
Like Google Earth?
Yeah, please, of Yorkshire Raintree and then the intersection down into Hillsborough Veterans, because I think we need to have a little bit of discussion on that. Yes, sir.
No, I was done. I think Mr. Flores needed.
Commissioner Truex wanted to get in the queue.
Yes, Commissioner Truex, you are recognized.
Thank you. I don't think you can see my
Can
hand raised.
you turn his
because
volume up a little bit, somebody? Or get closer to the mic if you can, Bill.
I will.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're going to see. Okay.
We got you.
Can you hear me okay now? I had to switch from my earbuds.
We'll stay quiet. We can hear you if we stay quiet.
Okay, so a couple things. Commissioner McDowell hit the nail on the head. We've got to get both counties and the city together. I think that, I'm trying to cut this short, I think that Commissioner Luke also brought up some very important things to consider, and that is the fact that there's 320 contiguous acres of commercial land out there. You may want to know how I know that. It's not really a concern, but it's something that I'm very well versed with from like 20 some years ago. And what I would tell you is that until that has an interchange there, that corridor is not going to develop because there's no good access to it. And if it is, it's going to develop very slowly. So as we look at this from the MPO perspective, I think it needs to be looked at differently when you do the research on it and the study, because there's going to be a high demand for that interchange once it's put in. But you're not going to have commercial development come in advance in hopes that they're going to get something someday down the road. I know that when we worked with other folks from an economic development standpoint back in 2002. So I would hope that there'd be a little different outlook on that rainbow portion of it. The Yorkshire portion obviously is going to be driven by Charlotte County as far as the need. I think the need, we all know, for Yorkshire is going to be relatively large. And I don't want us to get closed off to that overall concept and look at this in a standard way or through a tunnel. That would ruin, I think, what could happen in a shorter period of time, because it's been mentioned, we can't really wait 15 years for this, guys. I don't know if 12 years is fast enough. Mm-hmm. So starting a study too far down the road is not going to be beneficial to us, just as much as too far or too close or too soon is also not going to be very beneficial to either community, in my opinion. Additionally, a joint resolution should be asked for through both the city and at least Charlotte County at this point immediately. How soon we can do that, I don't know. But we also need to reach out to Sarasota County and put us all on the same page and move this thing forward as quickly as possible. And with that, I will silence my mic, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner. We heard you loud and clear. Appreciate your comments. If we could bring up switch us back to the, thank you. So My question is, and this is, I know DeJuan Harris couldn't be here today. He had a prior commitment, but we have Lax in the room, and also Mr. Hutchinson. But if you go in a little bit closer, you know, we have that loop that you showed before. You coned in on. Whoops.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm wondering where you want me to zoom in closer to. I don't know why this is up.
Get rid of that. Thank you. No.
Okay, now.
Okay.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
I don't care what the Kardashians are doing. Let's do more important stuff here. So let's cone in on the interchange between where Veterans goes and then makes the big angle. Right. So initially we were going to talk about making the intersect at I-75 and Veterans. Makes much more sense to go north to Raintree, Yorkshire. But if you go more to the west, no, just west. Just move to the west.
Down Veterans.
To the left.
Gotcha.
Keep going. There you go. Stop. So that
I was
interchange there, where Veterans makes the curve and goes east-west, but could continue north to Raintree, you know, I really have to understand how we address that, because those roadways have to become confluent. And in my mind's eye, I guess I'm looking at possibly a fairly large roundabout, but the orientation of the intakes for those roads have to change. So that would put that roundabout a little bit further west, and that concerns me, because while, you know, east or west, but I mean, we're about to move ahead on a project and give up land that we currently own. And I'm very concerned that we haven't done the studies yet, that we haven't looked at, and I have Commissioner Doherty ready to chomp at this one. But I'm just very concerned. What I don't want to do is commit to selling that land and then finding out that, you know, moving it to the east and doing the roundabout is not going to work as well as moving it to the west. So, Commissioner Doherty?
We don't have a problem, sir.
Okay.
If you look at the canal, you look at Harbor Boulevard, John, put your, right there. Right there, you see the canal, and I can't remember the name of that canal, but for the life of me. But that is a 100-foot right-of-way that basically, if you project that to the north up to Hillsborough, is kind of that whole section of land is not part of this development that you're talking about. So everything we're talking about doing relative to the Bachman track is to the west of that. So we've got plenty of real estate right there. If 100-foot right-of-way.
We're not going to need to give to utilities, or it's not the school district or anything like that.
Because like I said, you look at the waterway, if you project that north, I think that even shows on some of the original drawings that it might have been contemplated by General Development years ago to actually punch that canal further north and maybe have even a connection to Cocoa Plum back a billion years ago.
As well.
But it never happened. So that's 100 feet. Plus you see Harbor Boulevard right just to the east, which is another fairly wide right-of-way. You combine all that, I think the geometry's there, and it's all east of where the land is for the housing project you're talking about. So I think we're okay. I don't think we have a problem. I've looked at it. I think I've talked to economic development about it as well. I think we're in good shape real estate-wise. But you're absolutely right. We have to figure out that intersection of all those roads, absolutely. Hillsborough, Veterans, Harbor, Raintree, all of that is going to be a very interesting design issue. And I'm looking forward to watching
You just gave me that mad scientist look.
Woohoo, you know? Like fun for me, you know?
Fun for this guy.
Anyway.
Okay, and then of course, right, so what is the roadway? Is that Yorkshire?
Yorkshire to the...
Yeah, okay. So, right, because that'll come down. That's all going to come into play as the takeoff to go back to the highway. So I'll stop there. Commissioner McDowell?
Not too familiar because it doesn't show, but you see where Veterans and Raintree are really, really close to each other. There's a street that comes down from the north that's right there. What is that street? Does staff know real quick?
I should know it, but it's Northport, so I don't.
Just bring it down. John, bring it down. You'll see the name. Just bring it down.
Yeah, there you go. Blow it up.
And go in. Blow it up.
Cirrus Drive. Okay.
Cirrus.
Yeah,
that would probably need to be connected too.
Right.
Not just Harbor, but Cirrus, Raintree, Veterans,
right.
Hillsborough, and have that all connected.
And probably to the south side of the waterway as it comes to Raintree, it would get expanded and blown in because a lot more traffic's going to start coming down to that area.
Makes
So
the design very interesting.
There obviously is no road connecting Raintree/Hillsborough to Veterans. Would it be in everybody's best interest to kind of start working on that connectivity?
I'm absolutely positive it would help us to start studying that connectivity and coming up with designs. I have somebody at the mic.
It looks like they're already doing it.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Lori Barnes. I'm the Planning and Zoning Manager for Northport. And I wanted to offer a couple of things. On the current topic, FP&L owns the property in the area you are currently discussing. FP&L has an easement that runs all the way up along Raintree. And I'm not sure if this gentleman can select the property owner information here, but you will see it is owned by FPL. So we have a challenge there as far as connections.
And that's the area to the east and north.
Yep.
The triangle to the east.
Yep.
Right here.
Yeah, so we basically can't use any of that, so it has to go to the west.
Unless you ask them.
Oh, yeah, okay. Good luck with that. That's like asking a railroad to do something for free. Come on.
If you're gonna
Yeah, my God,
the moon, you might hit some stars.
might be.
The other thing that...
Continue, and then I'll have Commissioner Luke. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. The other thing I'd like to offer is the first asks from FDOT are to get our planning, our planning documents, our strategic plans, and our long-range transportation plans in agreement. I mean, I think a joint resolution is a fabulous idea, but most importantly, our planning documents need to be consistent. Right now, Charlotte County's long-range transportation plan indicates a Raintree interchange location. Northport's comprehensive plan and strategic plan indicate a Yorkshire location. I haven't looked at Manatee County's comp plan or strategic plan to know if there's any references in those documents, but I'm sure your planning staff can take a look and work with you all to update those, as we will work with our commissioners to update ours.
Right, so the verbiage needs to read Yorkshire and/or Raintree. This way, it's all on the table, we're all in agreement that we're looking at everything, and then, I would absolutely invite Northport technical staff to be, sort of joining us at our MPO meetings, that our technical staff would be going to the, Manatee, Sarasota meetings, just so that we're always in the room to be able to jump in and go, and on the record, just representing our staff saying X, Y, and Z, and we agree. 1 second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we need to specifically call out the collector-distributor method as has been presented through Sarasota County MPO's consultant that's been working with FDOT. So we'll certainly make sure our staffs get together so that we have the desired language in all of our documents.
Well, I certainly cannot direct Mr. Hutchinson, but I would ask him to be the repositor of all of the county and city information and make sure everybody's on the same page up there, and that he then translates that to Mr. Harris to make sure we're all on the same page, because I think if those two individuals are talking, they are the FDOT lead-ins for the areas, and let's just all stay on the same page. That is an excellent idea.
Okay, and the next step is our transportation staffs or our planning staff need to work to request planning funds in the fall, when the MPOs put out their call for projects, planning funds for the improvements to Veterans, Harbor Boulevard, and Raintree.
Very good. Can I just have, you want to allow him to, okay, Mr. Elias, go ahead.
I would just add to, just for this conversation, doing my best to try to keep this at a high level. And I get a little jazzed up about it, like Commissioner Doherty. But I will say, I think, truthfully, that we have more room than what you had even indicated, because I think we were asked to take a look at this a while back. But I would say, conceptually, we're wanting to keep this at a super high level and not already going into like super design, because that could bring challenges that you don't necessarily want to face until you get the momentum going forward.
Appreciate that. Commissioner Luke.
When you're talking about the roundabout there, are you talking about a similar roundabout as what we've got over at Hillsborough, where the people could continue on Veterans or do a roundabout and exit off to Raintree?
Yeah, again, I'm not a transportation engineer, but my vision, not knowing what it would look like, is I would like to not limit any of the current access, but make it even better. So anybody from Veterans can go anywhere they can go now, as well as Raintree, gets, so that you have, looks like you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 entry points to that area. All 5 should be able to get into whatever that looks like, so they can go anywhere they want within that.
I like that. Can you
Okay.
swing that to the left or west a little bit further where it shows Yorkshire?
Yeah.
There isn't anything preventing another roundabout there. That way you're feeding it going out to both Yorkshire and Raintree that would show, and it would indicate that there was a need for the 2 interchanges. If you had the ability to leave Charlotte County on either road.
Are you talking about a roundabout at Hillsborough and Yorkshire, or Veterans and Yorkshire?
The Yorkshire and Veterans.
Veterans, okay.
Yeah, and you can do the same type of, pass off, or you could take it around, but it allows the people to exit either Yorkshire or go up and then exit Raintree or continue on to Veterans. But it shows a need for all of those interchanges.
One of the issues that Commissioner Tiseo has championed is the fact that traffic on Veterans is way too fast, and that there have been numerous accidents because it's a narrower roadway by design than it should have been, but there were budgetary issues and there was right-of-way issues, and so there aren't the acceleration and deceleration lanes to do turns. There aren't the proper turning mechanisms within the medians, and I think adding a bunch of roundabouts is probably a great idea, because that's going to slow the speeds down. Commissioner Tiseo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, part of our MPO meeting next week is the corridor study. It's done. It's in there.
Thank you.
So there's a whole host of improvements, including right turn lanes and signalizations, and it's prioritized. So, proposing a roundabout when we have a corridor study that might call for signalization, we may want to figure out, based on our discussions, then when we bring it back to the board, we're not going to spend money on signalization if the theory is now, the concept is we want a roundabout. Why spend $1 million per signalization if, so we need to coordinate those things closely, and I think this corridor study we're going to start to review next week is going to be very important in how we approach this whole segment.
Yes, please. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because on my other tab here, I actually have our MPO agenda for next week, and one of the items is the corridor study. So, ccmpo.com, I invite all of you guys to go to it after the meeting and review that veterans study, because it's right along. We actually had them extend their study for 776 all the way on Veterans. We added some money to that so we could get all the way to Kings Highway, and we're very appreciative. And so this is very timely that we're doing this now and then addressing it on Monday to see what that looks like. So thank you so much for bringing that up. Any other comments? John, you want to wrap it up?
Yep. I certainly do.
That's a very interesting picture.
Yeah, so this was just a picture where we're talking about the 2 interchanges and the access road consideration. I will say, just to speak to, but again, trying to keep this at a super high level, I think at one point the consideration was to bring Raintree and Yorkshire together down close to Veterans and figure out something, but again, that's way far out. So, but I can assure you from a staff level, and to this gentleman's point, it'll certainly be helpful if we get that joint letter. I think that would be helpful, and staff continually will work together, and we had this recent meeting where there was a bunch of people there and we're all collaborating on that. So,
well, I'm very thankful that we have this meeting today, because Monday is our MPO meeting, and we're going to have the secretary sitting in Commissioner Doherty's chair right there. So we get to say, hey, guess what? Remember how we talked last meeting about the fact that we need to get with Northport? We did. So that's wonderful. Are there any other questions for Mr. Elias? All right, hearing none, we'll open it back up for public input at this time. Anybody wishing to address the boards during this portion of the meeting, please state your name. Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. For the record, remarks on any city-county related subjects, you'll be limited to 3 minutes and should be addressed to these commissions as a body and not to individual members. There will not be any discussion, but it's likely we will, in our discussion, answer some of those questions. And I see Mr. Russell.
Commissioners, Richard Russell, Port Charlotte. I'll be brief because it's getting close to 5 o'clock, and you know what happens at 5 o'clock if you're retired. When you're retired, I should
Is that your nap time?
Happy hour. You'll pay for that.
I just want to make you aware of something that came across on Florida Trend. Florida ranked second deadliest in nation for pedestrian deaths, according to a study. And Daytona Beach was ranked number 1 in the country. We had 7 metropolitan areas in the top 20. And the reason I brought that up, of course, is transportation. And in our neighborhood, you all in Charlotte County know what we've been talking about down at the beach complex. Unprotected pedestrian path. The only sidewalk going to the beach complex has been blocked off, essentially forcing our neighbors and people that like to walk down to the beach complex to walk out into the street. I'm just hoping before they get that cleaned up and move all the stuff off so people can walk down there safely before someone does get hurt. So I just want to make that point to, really, I'm sorry, but I'm addressing it to the county. I think Sunseeker, the way they've got the barricade set up, something like that needs to be done, even in residential situations where you've got a one only sidewalk, that pedestrians don't have a choice of going across the street and walking down that sidewalk. So I'm just throwing it out there, and I think it's something even Northport should think about it, because it's a dangerous situation. And unfortunately, we have a lot of pedestrians that are not that great on their feet, and I know that because I'm getting there myself. So anyhow, I appreciate all you all do, and you all have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Lynn Sapo, Buena Vista property, Port Charlotte. I wanted to add on, and I thought the presentations were excellent, but if you tie together the amount of development that is going on, it isn't just getting from one road to another. It is the expansion of the roads we already have. I think you will be well served if you do some transportation studies of the current roads that we have, probably in both counties, because it is going to be a tremendous amount of influx of people. And you can see it right now seasonally, but it is going to be exorbitant when people move here, and they're starting to move here many more permanently. So this is going to be a long-term, extensive problem. The other thing about the health of the harbor, the cause of a lot of these problems is what happens after the pollutants get in the water. It forms green algae. And the green algae, it's a result of a lot of this horrible mix of pollutants coming into the water. The green algae forms in clumps, and then it dies and it blankets the whole bottom of the harbor. So anybody who puts something into the harbor, like a crab pot, pulls it up and sees it covered with a blanket of this green algae. When that algae dies, it creates toxins. And those toxins also cause respiratory problems. That isn't my problem today, I don't think, but it might be, because it exacerbates all the COPD that people have. It exacerbates all the breathing problems. The other thing that happens is that it sucks the oxygen out of the water. So that's when there are dead areas. And the fish can't go there. The manatees don't come in because there's no seagrass. You have the article about the seagrass being gone. And it creates these big dead zones. So something needs to be done for cleanup. It isn't just monitor and find out how we can prevent. Now, there's a real problem right now, and it needs to now be cleaned up. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your comments.
At least I'm consistent.
Yeah.
I go to 3 minutes each.
3 minutes. You timed that out perfectly. Is there anybody else from the public who wishes to speak? All right, I don't see anybody else rising. We will go to member comments, and I'll start with Commissioner Deutsch.
I think obviously it was productive. We feel good about it. Thank you, folks, for coming, and I think we should plan ahead to do this another 6, 8, 12 months, but definitely do it again and follow through. And thank you all, and safe travels home.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McDowell.
Yes, I just want to thank Charlotte County for your hospitality and holding this meeting with us. It was extremely productive. I look forward to giving our city manager direction to work with your county administrator to get that joint resolution together. Thank you again, and I look forward to having another conversation.
Thank you. Commissioner DeSeo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so Hector told me before the meeting, this is your first joint meeting with the city. Don't be too contentious and shower them with compliments. Did I do good? So
I don't believe he actually said that.
I don't either.
I don't think he can tell you anything, Joe.
In all seriousness, though, it was a pleasure getting to meet all of you. I know on some of the past committees we've kind of run across each other. And, you know, with the Florida Association of Counties, I get to meet the Sarasota County commissioners in different settings. So you create more of a personal relationship. So I think this was really good for me to maybe build off of that. I remember when and I've told this story before, but you probably haven't heard it. When I first got elected, Al Mayo called me up and said, let's go to breakfast. And we went to the Cracker Barrel, was his favorite place, and he ordered blueberry pancakes. And we were talking, got to know each other. And at the end, when the bill came, he gave it to me. And he says, well, you're the new guy, so you have to pay. So I thought it was about building relationships, but I think he got a free pancake breakfast. But no. So it was good to get to know him, and I'm glad I got to know all of you a little bit better today. And really, I appreciate the joint meeting here. And maybe next time when we have one, we can go to Northport, and we can do it there.
Can we go to Northport? I'm looking at the attorney.
Yeah.
Okay, good, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Langdon.
Thank you, Chair. I really gave my comments throughout the meeting. I'll just close by saying I'm a great believer that when you get the right people in the room who are really ready to collaborate and compromise, miracles can happen. So I think we are on the path of creating miracles, and I'm really excited to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner White.
Yes. Yes, I have to echo statements that I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I couldn't believe this was the first time that this has ever happened. I just assumed it's happened before. We're such close neighbors, and as we become more populated, as we have heard over and over again, our boundaries are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's not that vast expansiveness of undeveloped land anymore. So it's really important that we do collaborate and join forces for our objective. And today I really appreciate that conversation about Yorkshire, and that it isn't my thing, that's asphalt and concrete, but I do appreciate the conversation about that because it has to happen. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Luke.
Absolutely wonderful. This was probably even more than I could have expected. The collaboration was outstanding. The staff preparation, outstanding. The conversation, the continuity of everything, outstanding. This is exciting, and really look forward to another next meeting up in Northport. But I know all of you from different aspects and stuff, and it is sad that it's taken this long to get to this point, but I think we see in our leadership team that we have within the city and the county, there is an eagerness for us to continue this path of cooperation and making this southwest area of the state the best that it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Doherty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it was a great meeting. First, want to thank the leadership team for putting us all together, all the hard work for all the staffs. Great job, guys. It really was. It just reinforces how much we have in common. Yeah. You know, it's, you know, as I said, I'm in my 50th year living in Charlotte County, but heavily connected to Northport. I own a home on South Southford that I rent to my son. So I pay taxes. I don't know which district. I think it might be the mayor's district. I think that area. But, you know, Northport is really grown, and we've watched. It's just amazing how you've transformed. When I first moved here in April of '73, Northport was Biscayne Drive. That was it. That was the main part downtown. So a little bit off Northport Boulevard. I actually knew, I think I mentioned this to you, I actually met the original mayor, Mayor Gentle,
Yeah.
Margaret Gentle.
I'm sorry.
I know. Mayor Gentle was a retired Marine Corps officer, and she was extremely strong personality. But anyways, that's how, excuse me?
Alpha male, female.
But anyways, thank you so much for coming. Let's do this again as soon as we can. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We may have lost our chairman, Commissioner Truex, but I really appreciate his participation, and I'm sure he would have echoed. There he is, Bill.
There he is.
Hey, let's give you a chance to say hello. Do you have any comments, sir?
I haven't missed a beat.
I'm sure you haven't. I really appreciate you.
Technology.
Yeah, I appreciate you being available to comment. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so I apologize for not being there in the beginning because of my technological challenges out here. But first of all, it's late, but welcome. I'm glad you guys were able to come over to Charlotte County today. I want to thank the entire board from Northport. I want to thank my board from Charlotte County for the opportunity to have the joint meeting. But I specifically want to call out Commissioner Langdon for approaching me well over a year ago about this possibility. And I think that is setting us up for a very unique relationship, which I'm going to spend a few seconds on further on here. But I had some things I wrote down I wanted to make sure that I commented on. So today it has provided us the opportunity to not only get to know more about each other, but each community, for gathering, you know, an opportunity for us to be more personable with each other and grow together as our region continues to grow together. The opportunity to collaborate is enormous, and by collaborating, we will create a better and greater outcome for our communities. The city's come a long way over my many 31 years in the area, and I appreciate the work that the city of Northport, Sarasota County put forward in achieving the Cool Today Park and the Atlanta Braves. As Commissioner Teseo mentioned earlier in the meeting, it is a huge opportunity when it comes to baseball tourism, which I umpired baseball for 18 years, and I can tell you people drive for many, many miles in the west coast of Florida to see baseball, and by having two teams in close proximity, it makes it a greater effect on that opportunity. I think the opportunity and willingness to collaborate through the many things we've talked about today and additional challenges that we'll see beyond the years, including housing, they're going to be extremely important. Our relationship isn't about competition, but it's about collaboration. And I view this as a great first step in developing our region more intelligently and more responsibly. Our unique relationship for me is when Commissioner Langland wanted to talk and work together. Particularly, we talked about water quality and septic to sewer conversions. I spoke to her about the challenges that she's going to face and you all will face as you go through this process, but you're doing things in a very coordinated and collaborative method together with your staff. And I think that is a great thing, and Charlotte County will be a recipient as well as your own community of the benefits of going through the process. I want to thank our staff, your staff, and the community that came out today or watched online. This is a great first step, as I said before, and I look forward to collaborating. And I don't want to wait 6 months. I think that if we could get together in 3 months or closer to 4 months maybe, But I think it's going to be very important that we continue the effort and we continue the momentum. I'm very much aware of the need for what's coming, and I know that many of us may not be around when these interchanges are completed, but it's going to be important that we make the steps forward today so that the people in the future can benefit from these movements. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate your comments. Very well spoken. You know, and again, I'm very thankful for the hard work the staff did, that all the participants on this dais. And, you know, if you want to talk history lesson, you know, a decade ago, you didn't have a 6-laned 41. You know, now you do. You have what we had. We've grown together that way. You didn't have anything at the borders. You grew that whole mall system and that whole commercial district down to the border. We now have a huge Kia dealership. We're about to put an urgent care center from Fawcett Hospital right on the border. So we have grown together. And this is critically important, and I agree with Commissioner Truix. I really think that, you know, 3, 4, at the most 6 months, but we're going to have some more regular meetings with you because we have so much in common, and between water quality and transportation infrastructure and so many other things, I think it's finally come to the point where it amazes me that we haven't met before, but I think that we need to start, you know, doing this on a more regular basis. We're going to be meeting with the city of Punta Gorda, which we haven't done in quite a while, but I think it's important for this commission to understand we really have 2 municipalities that we deal very directly with, one within our borders, and the other one is the largest city in Sarasota County. And when you tell people that, they go, oh, they can't be. No, it's Northport. They are the largest city, and they have been for quite a while. So we're very honored that you came down here, and we really look forward to future collaborations, and thank you all so very much. And if there's nothing further, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.